a grape on the floor.
Oh,
Tell us, David. Tell us about ram balls.
about whom?
Ram balls.
Oh, they were delicious, tender.
Tasty testes.
They were salty. They were buttered, battered. The grossest.
Did you decide to go live because I was turned around?
Yes.
In the middle of it. Right in the middle.
I have now had the balls of 3 animals in my mouth.
And we're live.
Of course.
I knew I should have turned off the camera. I
Did
knew
you not
it.
know
I was
what
like,
channel
maybe.
you're on? Don't you know how this works?
For anybody out there who's looking for it, do not do bison. Bison were virtually inedible. They tasted like iron. I had to give them to the dogs. But it's still healthy food. But these were delicious, and I actually did well on the recipe. Viva Family, if anyone's looking for another YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Where we eat balls.
Listen,
That could be the tagline. Yay.
full animal. You got to go full animal.
Look, I
No,
had
it's
a
balls or
refrigerator.
nothing.
I had a refrigerator theme. I was thinking of food. Why not? And we
Eric,
have this
is your
stunt eater.
Is your shirt blurred, or am I going crazy?
It is actually merch for the second channel, the second channel, since it got taken down. And as of this morning, I passed the subs that I had to begin with on the channel that was taken down. But today,
Yay.
it's going to hopefully help me get to even more subs. And hopefully we can smear the face of copyright trolls
Excellent.
pretty soon if I can beat this stupid claim. That would be quite lovely. Okay, so we are up to
Good Lawgic
7.
is here.
Hey.
We got
We didn't start yet, right?
we have enough for civil jury. We got 6, baby. We got enough for civil jury.
Did we start
All
yet,
right.
or we are live?
Yeah, we are
We're
live.
live? Oh my!
Yes.
I'm joking.
All right.
Right. I knew it was
Much to my embarrassment.
That's the whole point of it. All right. Anyway, so while we're pimping the other channels, America's Untold Stories, please sub to it. And our latest video, which is doing extremely well, thanks to a lot of you guys talking about it, is about the illustrious Alec Baldwin and his sharpshooting capabilities. So I think it would be a good subject to start on. There's already more news. Like, one, he's a dumbass and retweeting. He's out shopping for the family for Christmas. That's what you do is after you shoot somebody, it's a fine time to have a grocery trip or no, I'm sorry, Christmas gift trip because, her kids don't have a mother to give gifts to them. But, Alec, he's going to take care of his own. No worries there. And a few minutes before we went on, Mark commented on the video that apparently Hannah, the armorer, is talking. So
that's usually not
everybody's
a good
starting
idea.
to roll over.
Yeah.
So now the AD. Well, hey, I need a sequel video, guys. I'm trying to build up the hours. So come on, everybody, keep talking, keep being stupid. I need the content.
The tweeting. So first of all, if you go to Alec Baldwin's timeline, just don't make the mistake. I don't think anyone's made it yet, but his pinned tweet says "a good day for riding." That tweet is 5 years old, so that's not a current tweet.
Maybe he should change the pinned tweet, though.
Well, maybe he should pin he should probably go silent on social media, and no one will misconstrue the silence in a bad way. They'll misconstrue it as in this guy's going through the unimaginable.
Yes.
In terms of him getting to, he's in Vermont and being photographed by the paparazzi. I'd like to think paparazzi would stop hounding him now, but that's what the industry is.
That's
Not for that. I mean, good Lord, are you kidding? I mean, the optics are terrible, and every shop owner is calling each other, going, "Did you see who was here? Did you see it?" I mean, come on.
It's the type of thing where you stay home and you lay low for at least a couple of weeks, if only out of respect and.
You think?
well. I mean, maybe Newsom called him up about the supply chain and was like, "Yo, bro, you better get those orders in now, because otherwise they're going to Florida." Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw that one got fact checked for misinformation. The cargo ship coming into the port of Miami, they're like, "Is it really redirected from Florida, from California?" It's like, come on,
That's possible, I guess.
Oh, yeah, but you know how
That would be a really long detour.
There's the Panama Canal. It's not that bad, right?
That's expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. I was going to say you're talking about what, $100,000. I mean, it's staggering money, and
Yeah,
I think $100,000 an hour. I mean, it's
I've
like
gone
millions a
through it.
day.
It's a really cool.
But are
thing
you
to
going
do.
to lose
I went
that?
through it
Are
one
you going to
time.
lose that waiting several months off offshore? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is kind of like last year when the oil. Remember, they were paying people to get oil out into the refineries because it was floating around in the water, because it cost so much money to transport it that you literally had ships that were just kind of floating around in circles going, what do you want to do? You know, you're just going to keep charging. And so they were like, hey, free oil. And, you're not coming? We'll pay you. Come get it. So it's unbelievable. So where
Makes
we
you
are
think
now-
America might want to invest in pipelines or something. I don't know. That's just me.
That'd be a good idea. But no, we
No, we
want to
shut
transport
those
them
down.
with trucks, which we can't afford now.
Nope. No, we've got some brain trust, quite literally. What are your guys' thoughts? Now, I know, David, you had to follow up on the tweeting, so break it down first.
Well, I've come a little, not full circle, but now that I have appreciated, thanks to Mark Gruber and everyone else letting the world know that they deal with real firearms all the time on set. So they know, despite what the public thinks, prop guns are real guns. They've been doing it since the 30s. So it was not the first time it happened. It's not the first time Alec Baldwin has been holding what he knows is a real gun, even if it's qualified prop gun. So my initial reaction was, geez, why would they have I said, why do they have a real gun on set? And then the second reaction was, oh, well, why do they have a loaded real gun on set? And now, you realize
That's
that they
the
do
issue.
it all the time. No, but even apparently it happens all the time. Regardless, he knew that he was holding a real firearm, loaded or not. I'm inclined to change my ascribing of responsibility. At the very least, putting some more on Alec, whereas at the beginning, I would have given him the benefit of the doubt based on my own ignorance.
What does everybody else feel? Everybody's so quiet.
What I
What's
found
wrong?
when I was talking to people was that those who had, which is really, really interesting to me, because my initial take was this is all on the prop master. And the more I talk to people who, because I'm a Jew from New York, I don't know what guns are.
Wait, what?
So my initial thought.
I'm kidding.
We never know.
Oh.
Hey, somebody told me Nate was black. Did you guys know that?
My point is that I don't like how you guys are making fun of my whole intersectionality, okay? Okay? Just because I'm a New Yorker doesn't mean you guys are always picking on me.
Hold on.
You're always putting me down.
Guys, what we don't know is that Joe actually got the second gender-neutral passport. The first was to the other guy. The second one was to Joe.
So, my point is, in New York, you can't have a gun, and Jews are scared of guns. That's why I mentioned that, okay? So I have no relationship to guns. We are by nature scared
I think
of guns.
Mark.
I don't know about the
correct
Jews
you on
being
that.
scared of guns.
Yeah,
All the
Mark-
pictures of the IDF I see, man, they seem to love the guns. There's the
okay.
whole
American
Instagram account,
Jews.
the whole
Again.
Instagram account of the women Israelis with guns. Not that I follow it in any way or look at
Not
it
that it's
frequently,
hot
but
or anything.
there does seem to be a high amount of guns with the Israelis. Just noting.
I'm just telling you reality, okay? So as far as American Jews, so and what I found, which I thought was really interesting, was that the more people were experienced with guns, the more they blamed Alec, and the ones who had nothing to do with guns all blamed the prop master. And that's what. And when I realized that, I was like, yeah, well, gun owners know a lot better about gun responsibility and what Alex should have been doing than I do. So if they're all saying that, hey, everyone checks their bullets, everyone checks, the revolver or whatever it is to see whether it's blank, whether it's loaded and how you deal with a gun, that if you had any gun safety training, you would never end up finding yourself in this situation.
Oh, by the way, before we get too deep,
I respect that, and I go with that. So yeah.
Before we get too deep, I got to cover this because this is going to be a hectic episode again. So, David, can you give the super chat speech that you always give?
Oh, yes. 30% goes to YouTube. Not a right of entry into the conversation. If they don't read your super chats, do not be offended. And if you want to pay to be abusive, that's your prerogative.
Nice.
Thank you.
That's actually much more succinct than when I do it. Nate, hold on. Nate, there was about to say something, and now I need to know before he forgets and before I forget.
All right.
No, I'm no fan of Alec Baldwin, but I'm just going to say I think it's a stretch to say that he's criminally liable for this thing. And
Mhm.
and I'm just, as someone who's been trained with guns, I remember we were doing riot training, and they have the bean bags, so they give you a real shotgun and load it with bean bags. If that person gave me a shotgun and they told me it's loaded with bean bags, and I go and I shoot it, and it happens to be real, loaded with real stuff, there is no way that I'm criminally liable, especially if we're in a, if there are people like, the range master and all that who have told me that this gun is, this. I'm not, I remember being handed the bean bags and being handed the shotgun. I didn't open it up and check it. You clear down range. You do all that and you fire it. It's bean bags. I got in trouble because I hit the damn the fake protester in the head. Oh, you're supposed to shoot in the head. I said, yes, I do. So they were upset with me at that. I got more upset because I shot the damn fake protester in the head with the bean bag than anything. But I think when you're talking about criminal liability, there is you have to really talk about what did he know at the time, and and everything that I've been told, there was a responsibility of the person handing him this weapon, which was a real weapon, to make sure that weapon was safe.
Actually,
to make sure it was
the person who handed it to him, it was not their responsibility, which is a major factor because he broke the chain. The armorer is supposed to hand it to the actor. The first AD was impatient and actually took the weapon and handed it to Alex. So in my mind, that is the person who's going to be.
But I want to ask this question. This is the one question I want to ask. Is there, when he was handed that gun, would a reasonable person have thought that gun was filled with live ammo?
Yeah. It depends if it's an absolute, if it's an issue of
that's
absolute responsibility. No, it depends if it's an issue of absolute responsibility. It doesn't matter if would a reasonable person relying on their odometer, maybe a faulty odometer is an excuse to speeding, but I don't think it is. But this is one of those things where first of all, you're not talking about murder, you're talking about reckless discharge potentially.
Yes,
so would a reasonable person believe, here's a gun, it's not loaded. Okay, first thing you do is pull the trigger? No. And then if you pull the trigger by accident, maybe still, but no. If someone hands you a gun and says it's a cold gun, the first thing you do is not necessarily point it at someone and pull the trigger because the guy told you it was cold. I mean,
hold on. No.
Right.
But the situation is, it's a prop gun at a movie set.
Whoa.
They've handed this thing to you before, and
It's
then
a gun.
now you've gotten it. It's a gun. Somebody hands you a gun. They've probably done this shooting thing for a whole bunch of different times. This is a one-off event, right? This is not something that happened. It could have happened. I'm not even sure if it happened before, but I'm assuming they've been doing this for a while. They were on a movie set.
It's rare.
And this one time,
rare.
it's an accident. But I think the intent here is the problem. I think if people, unless you can really touch, and I think the best you can get is reckless, right?
Yeah,
but
well,
I don't think
yeah,
anybody's
yeah.
arguing. And
Nobody's
I don't
saying
think
it's murder.
anybody's arguing intent.
Well,
I
except for
think you should
the
get
conspiracy
intent.
theory people.
Well,
Sorry.
And if you don't have intent, you don't have any crime.
Cousin Q is definitely arguing that.
Well,
I'm sure.
now hold on a second.
Depends how you're using the word intent. Depends if
Alita
you're
was
using
going to say
its narrow
something.
meaning or its broader meaning.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the worst that you can get is recklessness, right? But I tend to lean towards what Nate is saying also, because I think that to assign somebody criminal liability, civil liability is a lot easier. Criminal liability, I don't know. I think it's a very thin gray line on that one. Between criminal liability for Alec Baldwin. Now the assistant director and the armorer, I would for sure look at much more, because the armorer especially is supposed to have a much higher sense of expertise. They're the ones she's the one that's ultimately responsible for these weapons and responsible for their safety, responsible for their custody. So, if they're not under her control.
I don't know if she is responsible, or the prop master, who, by the way, is replaced in the middle of the day, because she works under the prop master in handling of it, but the prop master has the ownership of the guns, just to point that out. So technically, the ownership is probably the prop department and master.
Right.
She is supposed to hand it. She did not hand it. The AD had no business taking the gun off of the cart and handing it to Alec Baldwin. He was in a rush. So there's a big problem. He's got a problem, I feel, because he stepped in and did something that is not part of his duties. If this was a union job, it would be just like, everybody be going ballistic, even if nothing happened. It's kind of a non-union set. But I think
you're making a hell of an argument for criminal negligence for that guy.
Yes,
that criminal negligence is a great argument. But for Alec Baldwin, I don't think you can even get a charge.
Is it unreasonable for him to have the belief that it was not loaded if it was handed to him by the assistant director as opposed to the armorer? I don't know. I don't
You
know
don't-
enough about the
Well,
film industry to
You don't
know what
think-
the culture says about that.
You don't think you can get a charge, really? When
I'm
5
saying-
when 5 days earlier, a stunt double is told that a gun is cold and ends up discharging live ammunition. When there are bullets, live ammunition lying all over the set, just open, available to anyone.
Yeah, but
which
Nate's
is,
argument.
Yeah.
Nate's argument
But
is
the
going to be
thing
that
is-
that won't be relevant for Alec Baldwin. But my
Right.
He
my
was a
argument is-
producer.
For the
Well,
He's a
assistant
producer.
That producer bit.
No,
That-
but
liable.
Hang
that
on,
one
but
we've
for
already
the
taken out.
assistant director, I mean, he was the one that literally he did not check it. He assumed, and he was the one that said out of nowhere, he had absolutely no facts to back it up, and he said this is cold. No reason
That's
to
your
say
criminal,
that.
yeah.
So
That's your
he's
negligence right there.
he really is the one that I would look at highest of the list, and then probably the armorer.
Now
Well,
back to Baldwin for a minute here, because we have different experiences. Nate's talking about his time with the military. I mean, not military, but the police. I was involved with the military, and believe me, if you want to talk about safety and weapons, there are some rules here. And
yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah, so it depends on the standard, but the standard was no, you didn't just go fire. I mean, it was literally you had it empty, you loaded it immediately before fire, everybody is lined up, you wait to fire, you're told to fire, all clear, you pull it open, you not only do, but you pull everything out, you look down the barrel, the gun, you do everything except for disassembling it at that point. You reload everything, you go to another fire. These are all in sequences. So, I mean, it's a very, very structured thing. And you are always checking the gun. As a matter of fact, you're checking that gun so many times, it's nauseating. And then when you go back, guess what you get to do? You get to fully disassemble the entire rifle and clean every freaking part of it. You will know that it is empty. I promise you will know it's empty. And even then, there's still mishaps.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
no-
It's a
North
serious-
North Paul says, if it was a scene where Baldwin was supposed to point the gun at his own head, would he check? So
That's a good question.
It's a fair. It's a good point.
fair.
But here's the thing:
It
there's
might not have been.
there's some ambiguity when people say like Alec Baldwin shouldn't be. He didn't do anything. He's not guilty. I think we have to make sure we're talking about the same terms. Not guilty of a crime that requires specific intent, but the general intent of recklessness or reckless disregard or reckless discharge causing bodily harm. You don't have to have the specific intent. And to say someone hands you a gun and says it's a cold gun, if the first thing you do is pull the trigger as a gag and it discharges, well, a defense that I thought it was empty is, and I was told it was empty, is not a defense. And the issue that I still want to know, I don't think we know it yet, is in what context he pulled the trigger. Was it by accident? Was it on purpose for the scene?
Issue too. Why was he pulling the trigger at all if he was rehearsing?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be rehearsing.
Well-
Right,
across
that's another
the-
question.
I think I honestly just think I understand it feels wrong, but I can just see the defense right now. Yes, I'm an actor. I'm on the set. I have professionals who are supposed to be trained, who are supposed to do this safety. It went through their check. Somebody handed me something and said, "This is good to go," and then I used it. Now, generally, if you could say I can see some proof where you say every single time before that, every time he used the gun, he checked the gun, then maybe you can make an argument against intent. But if you don't have those facts, then with the facts that we have in front of us now, I don't think any reasonable, I think if it's a political prosecution, yeah, they'll charge him. But I don't think any reasonable prosecutor would say, we can prove intent here. We can prove
There's a
intent
good
for the
one
other
too, Nate.
people,
Hold
but
on,
we
Nate.
can't prove the
This
intent
pokes
for this
a hole
last
in that
person.
too.
ahead.
This super chat. Here's a good point. Would Baldwin accepting the gun from the wrong chain of custody person expose him to criminal negligence too? So no, it wasn't the armorer handing him the gun. No, it was not the trained armorer handing him the gun. It was somebody else handing him the gun. So it'd be like me going out there and Alita saying, "Here, Eric, it's empty," and I say, "Oh, okay, it's empty," and I go shooting, but she has no idea of anything because David dropped the ball. Now, David, who is the armor, handed me the gun. This is a very different thing. So Alec Baldwin he has hundreds of movies, tons of experience. There are protocols here, all the way from the A-list down. Nick Cage, by the way, this is very relevant too.
Yeah,
Nick Cage was extremely upset with her on a previous movie for discharging ammo without yelling, like fire in the hole or whatever. There are some problems here, so that is really a good point.
Yeah,
if the
I think-
person who hands it to you is not the one who should be handing it to you, do you not have more responsibility to double check? Like, oh, did Hannah say this is good? Do we know this is good? Where's Hannah?
Yeah, and I think the production company definitely has some definite exposure for civil liability for negligent hiring of Hannah Gutierrez, considering her the greenness of her resume, so to speak, before she became a head armorer.
Yeah, I say, look, my entire opinion changed when I was made aware of the fact that they often and usually work with real guns. He knew it was a real gun when he held it. He knew it was a real gun when he pulled the trigger on purpose.
Target fired it, David. They all target fired. They were out plinking. They knew it was.
Well, do we know that he specifically did?
I have inside sources that say yes, absolutely, he was out there doing
inside sources.
So hold on. So they handed him this gun, and then he was
I'm just
shooting
saying.
at other things.
I'm not going to go
So
further.
hold on. I'm sorry. So if the story is they handed him this gun and he was planking it against other things, and then he shot this other person, or was it somebody handed him a gun?
I'm not going to say that in that same period of time, but at one point or another, he was target shooting himself at cans.
He knew it was capable of firing live.
So
ammo.
All right, yeah, but somebody handed him a gun, and I'm assuming they told him that gun was.
They said cold gun,
right?
They said cold gun.
That is all the facts.
So now, how do you get over? How do you now assess him criminal liability for that?
Okay, the person handing him the gun is the first AD.
What's his responsibility that he has now because he's trusting these professionals, right? So what now?
But that's not the professional. He didn't trust a professional. It could be the camera guy who handed it to him. He did not get handed the gun by the armorer. There is a point of responsibility.
I think this is a stretch. I think this is a stretch.
Okay,
right?
Nate, I want to ask something. If you work in your office and you call for your secretary to send your file, your secretary and to bring in your file, and all of a sudden Billy, some guy you don't know, walks in and hands you your file, you're just like, oh, okay, thanks, and just proceed as usual? Or would you say like, hey, you know what, this person, or you have Billy, Billy is a substitute for that day? Would you just trust that this is the right file that you need? Or you sort of double check because this is not the person who's supposed to be doing this. Everyone there knew that half the staff walked out because of safety concerns. You have a different person who is now the last person in the chain of custody who you're relying on because they said cold when we had the right chain of custody 5 days earlier. Someone said cold gun and they were wrong. Now, we didn't take any safety protocols since that first accident happened 5 days ago. We've been laying ammunition all around. We have a skeleton crew with half people walking out because of safety issues, and I've got a new person who I know is not the regular guy for the armor. We're on day 12 of the set of 21 days of shooting, and you're telling me that he has no responsibility at all? How do you even think he's responsible to look at the gun?
Joe,
I don't
actors
think
were checking their weapons too.
I don't think he's criminally responsible.
But Joe, you're adding like that adds meat to the argument. But this can be simplified as very simple. They give him a gun, say it's a cold gun, and he fires it. Now, what are his obligations before pulling the trigger? It would be to take Nate's example one step further. Here's a gun, Alec. There's bullets in there, but they won't hurt anybody. Pull it now, point it at him and shoot. I mean, this is like a Milgram experiment to some extent to see what you can get a person to do by telling them the experts told you to do it. But it's not like making sure a computer has the right gigahertz. You open it up and you see that there's bullets in it. That's a 1 second basic. I don't even care if he took gun safety course. That's like a bottom line thing you do before pulling the trigger. There was a case in Canada. I'm trying to find it of this guy.
However,
I did want to actually get to the statute at some point.
Hold on, here we go. Let's go to the statute. Let's get actual law, I guess.
When you bring up the statute, I want to point out that in Alec Baldwin's defense, I am sure that there are frequent times, I could be wrong, I don't know about protocols. I would think that it's a frequent thing that they get handed guns on set frequently by people who are doing it. That may not be something that every actor in every movie, when they're shooting over and over again, handed this gun or handed that gun, that they check every single time. So I'm trying to explain why it is that in this situation he should have been much more suspicious than a regular actor in a regular situation. That's
right.
why
it may happen. That doesn't make it correct. And we have people who are on film sets saying,
but that would make it not criminal. I'm not saying that makes it not civilly liable, but that would make it not criminal.
All right, let's go to the statute.
I'd like to talk about this. I'd like to talk about the statute for a while, please. All right. So this is the involuntary manslaughter, by the way, where I'm pulling this from. This is from the third clause of the involuntary manslaughter in New Mexico, in case you're wondering where this language is coming from. So you either have to show one of two things. You produce death in an unlawful manner, which is find some other statute he violated, other than the manslaughter statute. So find that. Or without due cause and circumspection, which is getting to this idea of what is his duty to inspect and caution. So this is going to be determined. So here's what the prosecution case looks like, and here's what the defense case looks like. The prosecution's case looks like, okay, anyone who knows anything about firearms knows the basic rules of firearm safety. We can show 8,000 times he's been trained this. He knows about the danger of firearms. He rants about them repeatedly. He knows that firearms are used sometimes for practice, whether he participated or not. If he participated, that would be helpful. But either way, it's like he knows these can be dangerous. He should have some sort of duty check. He shouldn't merely rely on. That's what the prosecution case looks like. The defense case is, look, firearms are used on set all the time by in all kinds of scenes. They go through a chain of custody. The actor is able to rely on that. That is per the industry norm. So he wasn't negligent in doing that. So I think on balance, given what we know right now, I think Alec Baldwin's defense has the slightly better end of it. Because what due caution and circumspection looks like is going to be determined by the circumstances of the trade and their practices. So that's my analysis. Now,
which is precisely, and because of due practice in the industry, that's why I'm saying that this was not a normal, customary situation. There was all these different factors which made this not a customary situation that should have alerted him that this is not just another day on set.
What's so infuriating for everybody who's out there and who is active, who has shot. I grew up hunting with my dad since I was a kid.
Sure.
I know that you guys have police experience, military experience. Everybody who's out there who loves the Second Amendment. Sorry, David, but all us good-blooded Americans are out there shooting since we're kids. We were told it is so important not to do these things. Do not ever point a gun at anything you do not want to shoot. And because of that, this is infuriating. Regardless of, I agree with Nate that criminal is going to be hard, but it's absolutely infuriating to anybody who's grown up with this. And we constantly are under pressure of, oh, guns are so dangerous. Oh, guns are so dangerous. We do our best to stay safe. And it takes a liberal who literally is held to a lower standard than a regular shooter would be held to at a range, right? Because we're lowering the standard from what the standard would be at a range to what is customary on set, which we're saying now is maybe a lower standard. Right? We're holding them to a lower standard. And they're still, by the way, going to use this as an argument that guns are bad, guns are dangerous, let's ban guns.
Andrew, I'll have you know, I took the firearm safety course in Canada. And I know, first of all, I don't let my kid
kill a moose?
No, I don't think I'd be able to kill a large mammal. Maybe a bird, a fish, no problem. But I liken this more to some of the other similar crimes like underage intercourse with a person. Say, oh, well, she told me she was 18. Well, that doesn't fly unless you take proper precautions to ensure that what you're being told is true. Oh, he handed me a gun and then said it's fine to safe, and I pointed in, and sometimes it doesn't matter. No.
In some states, it's strict liability, which I think
you're talking about strict liability crime, which is you're talking about a whole different thing.
Okay.
Careful.
I'm going to go through with the analogy anyhow, because even sometimes if you've asked for certain precautions. You ask for ID, then you don't know if the ID is forged, yada, yada. So there's still certain things you can do. For his defense I don't know if it would be manslaughter. I would look to see what other lesser charges there are out there that involve reckless discharge causing bodily harm.
There doesn't seem to be. New York has a criminally negligent homicide statute, but as far as I could tell, New Mexico doesn't. It seems to stop at manslaughter. It doesn't have anything below that, which seems odd, but that's where we are.
That's what we're talking about.
Well, someone gives him the gun. They give him the gun. They say it's not loaded.
Well,
do you not even open up the revolver? I don't know what type of gun it was. Do you not even check?
A regular person on a range is checking the gun.
So, and that's what Legal Minds said.
You're supposed to. You're supposed to.
This point here by Legal Minds said that's everything. There is a regular standard that everyone follows. We know he didn't do. What is the reason to say he's not criminally liable? Because you want to say there's a different standard, lower than anywhere else on the planet, that applies to actors in Hollywood, which may be true. Yeah. Maybe for one reason or another, because there are unique circumstances. Perhaps you want to say that's true, but that's when they are in a normal situation of Hollywood. Joe. That's when you lower that standard. You don't get to lower that standard if you're not in a normal Hollywood type of situation, as he did not have here. And that's why I do think that there's criminal liability. I'm positive he will never spend a day in jail if they decide to ever prosecute him. I'm positive he will never be convicted of anything. No one should misunderstand that. That doesn't mean that he should not be held accountable.
Real quickly,
Joe, hold on.
Peter's been donating a lot here, and I think that we should cover a little bit here. These are all, solid points. Number 3, though, I'm going to push back on a little bit because people are confused by it. Real bullets were on set, which was outright not allowed. Not technically, not on set. Now, off the set somewhere for pulling the bullets out, creating dummy rounds, creating blanks. They do exist in the area, but they should not be on the set. That's true. Two prior safety failures. That is definitely a factor. It's like we've got a giant problem here on the set.
Yeah.
People are walking off. They're noting safety concerns. Absolutely, this is true. Number 3, though, he is a producer, which means he can stop shooting for a safety review. Technically, anybody can stop shooting, I believe, by the bylaws, but he is a producer in name only. He is not an actual producer. This is a financial tool.
How do you know that?
That's what Mark Robert said.
Mark Robert.
I know because I watched their conversation.
Yeah, Mark Robert made it very
did you watch that video I sent you, Joe?
What?
Cheater.
Oh, you do your homework.
Yeah, okay. America's Dad. America's Dad. No, anyway. Anyway, so that is definitely a major factor. And I want to point something else too, because people are going into it about pay and then Alec Baldwin's liability or whatever. If he's hired as an actor through his production company, El Dorado Pictures, okay, and therefore I could see them going after it, trying to get away from the completion insurance, and his saying, "Oh, okay, company, just fold the company." And that gives him that layer between on the financial liability. And we get back to the criminal liability questions or whatever, but I do think that the financial liability, because there is insurance, and I have a feeling that the completion insurance is what they're going to get. Period.
It's the hard part about this is like people are saying we're conflating all these different things. Number one, the rules on a movie set handling these firearms are going to be different than the rules at a gun range. They're going to be different rules for law enforcement training. They're going to be different rules for military training, right? These are all different situations. So you're really talking about the standard of care within that field and contextually. Now, I'm sympathetic to Joe's argument about the former things, and I think those will be relevant. But I think at the end of the day, you really have to, when it comes to this issue of what did he know at the time and was he able to rely on with the circumstances that are in front of him. I do think, yes, would have been better for him to check the gun. Yeah, but I'm not even sure that would have even helped, because he could have checked the gun and thought it was good himself. We don't even know if he did or did not. We just assume that he did. But
you're assuming he doesn't know the difference between live ammunition or
might not.
Joe, have you handled a weapon? Let's clarify.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think Joe has.
Because they also work with blanks, Joe.
I know.
So there are rounds in there. They're dummy rounds, they're live rounds, or they're blanks. Now,
what I'm saying is,
you could tell a dummy round because the primer has been discharged on the back, and it's not fireable. But you can't tell the difference between a blank and a real bullet, not from the back. You would have to pull them out unless you could turn around.
They should be color coded. Like
so much
the color,
the
color
they are in the army.
Hannah said she was specifically uncomfortable handling blanks. She said that. She said, I am uncomfortable handling blanks before this.
Did she say why?
No, just that she was uncomfortable. She didn't have the experience.
I'm going to take the less likely prediction. Alec Baldwin is going to get charged with something.
He probably.
And I'm going to say this. He may not get convicted, but not prosecuting him would be the political decision. Prosecuting him would be the normal thing. Right now, there's enough evidence to say. You say, Nate, but
not at all. It's the exact opposite.
I know
you a firearms training now with somebody
David.
where I can show you a fire, because I remember we took this stupid training. The first thing they show you, I don't know if you guys ever saw this video of an officer going to a school and doing the firearms training, and someone hands him a gun and says, "Hey, it's clear." And he's like, "Oh, you can't do the gun." And
I'm the only one here able to handle it. Shortly before he shoots himself.
Yeah, exactly. And he wasn't charged because why? Well, he trusted this person. It was an extra round. Nobody knew it. So this is not like this hasn't happened before. And none of these people have ever been charged before.
You're acting like the first AD is a responsible person. No, that's the hole in your argument. Is that what if it's another actor? It's all the same. The armorer did not hand him the weapon.
I don't think that's a requirement. I don't think the law is requirement that the armorer must hand the weapon. I think the requirement is whether it was reasonable, and it'll come to a jury whether he was reasonable to believe that this person was giving him, and with this person, the information this person that he could rely on it. If you're saying it was unreasonable, that's an argument. But I believe that it was reasonable. And
it only comes to a jury if he's charged. It only comes. You're saying that comes to a jury. It only comes to a jury if he's charged. And you're saying he shouldn't be charged.
That's what I'm saying. I believe he might be charged. Yeah, I believe this is a charge.
I
Of
would
course, yeah,
defer-
I think he's enough to charge him.
There's no chance he stands trial. There is no chance. He will,
Hold
if
on a
anything, he will plead down. He'll plead down to community service, where he'll go around speaking out against the evils of guns, and they'll say the last 20 years was you paying it forward. That's exactly.
that's true.
He's not going to pay it.
The other thing is that in a criminal case, you also have the difference of burden of proof between a criminal case and a civil case.
I got to stand up for.
I think that's something that the prosecution would have a hard time with in this case.
Nate, hold on. Someone says in the chat, Britt Cormier. So if a child handed him a weapon and said it was clear there would be a difference, yes, because he's not reliant on the child. But Nate,
Why is there a child on the
Not
set?
reasonable.
No, forget that.
Yeah, not
I'm
reasonable.
gonna
Child's
take-
on lots of sets.
Nate, go back to your example. If the cop who handed his buddy, the firearm, if that cop had shot a kid in the class and not his buddy because he pointed the gun at a kid saying, this is what it looks like when I pull a trigger because he told me it's clear, I guarantee you he would have been charged.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not the issue of an accidental
Possibly, yeah.
discharge, let alone with the guy who gave it to you who's supposed to know better. This was him. Here's a clean gun. Oh, thanks a lot. Now let's go play funky gunky games and point the gun. If that's how the trigger went off. If he accidentally pulled the trigger and he didn't even intend to pull the trigger itself, there I could see a little factual pattern. But when he's retweeting those articles that seem to imply that he was right to pull the trigger because he was told it was a cold gun, I'm inclined to believe that he pulled the trigger on purpose, which makes it absolutely reckless in my mind.
It was a 19th century gun. You have to cock and fire. It's not even just like
a single action. Yeah.
Issue. Yeah, that is an issue. It's like, but if he was doing the quick draw, Joe, I mean that is part of it. Is the
that's true.
In the sequence. So I mean, I'm pretty sure there might be footage of this. I don't know if they were doing shooting video at the time, but there are good odds, and I think they've turned everything over to the FBI. So we may still see some, but
I don't think there was any film in the camera because it was a rehearsal. But the idea there's no video at all from it's odd.
They usually have video going, or often have video going. Just kind of all. I mean, it's so cheap anymore. I would not be surprised if there's something, for capturing takes and angles or whatever, especially if you're doing an important scene, you might want to have different angles to, get whatever.
Mr. Techo75 says, what about pointing a deadly weapon at a person? There's a similar provision under Canadian criminal law that you can't even point a gun at somebody.
Right.
But there's going to be consent issues, and guaranteed that would resolve.
But she didn't consent to have the gun pointed at her. She was a freaking cinematographer. Just pointing out. She wasn't another actor on the
assault
scene.
fear, though. It's assault fear. That's what we call it. It's assault fear. So
by the way, guys,
you,
I got to get this out of the way because it's been that way since minutes in. I can't wait to someday retire that.
Well, I got to tell you something. That gave me the required 5 seconds I needed to get a grape skin off my tooth because I was eating grapes. And it was driving me crazy.
Yeah, I put my pants on that fast.
If there's nothing in the way, hey.
Eric is saucy today. No, I think there will be charges. I think the public outcry is going to be too much. Found innocent, whatever, plead down, whatever. If there are not charges brought, that would be the politically motivated decision. Right now, based on what we know, and the more we learn, the more negligent and the more reckless it becomes as a whole. Eric, I'm not convinced with the producer argument. He may be a producer by name only, but his name is Alec Baldwin, so I guarantee you he could do whatever he wants on that set.
His name was Alec Baldwin.
But that doesn't necessarily mean
that's a political prosecution.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, Viva.
No. I mean Alec Baldwin for calling the shots on the set. Not the political prosecution here would be not to charge him because he told me the gun was clear. Well, that's a great precedent, you said. Pull a trigger of a gun.
They told the people who I trusted to tell me that the stuff was good. It wasn't good. That's generally how you don't prove intent. I mean, I didn't intend it because they gave me
except it's the wrong. They gave me. If the armorer gave it to him, then he'd have a complete claim. I mean, complete. I'd say it was clean.
So then you're disagreeing with Viva then, because Viva's saying just because if the armor even gave it to him, he would still be in trouble. I'm saying even though the armor didn't give it to him, but Viva's saying that's different. Viva's saying he would still be charged.
He would be in better shape if the armorer gave it to him. Yeah. I really do believe that because that is the person who is trained, trusted. That is their 100% their job to make sure it's clear. And if the armor, the expert, says it is a cold gun, I think he might not. I would have trouble charging him. If I was on the jury, I would have some trouble. I would, I'd have my military background saying there are protocols. You should always check behind. You should never trust anyone. But however, like you said, this is a different environment, and I understand it. And part of what we covered with the video with Mark is when he shot and killed somebody in a movie, guess what he did? The armorer gave him the pistol and said, you fire here, hold it up in the air, not down, because it's in New York, and you do not want to blow around through the buildings. You know, if in case it was a round, because it wasn't a round, it was a blank, it doesn't matter, you still treat it like a round. And then he said, okay, line up the shot, everybody, you point, you go bang. Mark did not check it at that point. The expert gave it to him. It was, assigned a controlled circumstance. This was a havoc circumstance. It was not controlled. The property master had been replaced. Everything else, the armor, I don't know where she was, and she bears some responsibility. This is the problem. Is I'm not saying that only Alec. I'm saying that he is not clear. I think that all of them have a piece of this. That there's some charges that can go around here. Why stop with one? Because we can share the wealth.
Right.
Alita had something to say. She was trying to get.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say, Eric, you with your military experience would not end up on the jury. I'll just say that because they would not want you on there. One side or maybe both even. Because you would be adding your own expertise into it.
And I agree with what Eric is saying. If the armorer says, here's the gun and it's cold, and Alex says, well, I see things in the back here. What are these? Don't worry, those are just blanks. They don't have discharge. And he pulls the trigger and a bullet comes out. Then I would be, inclined to think he took the measures, relied on the professional, and cannot be found or even accused of being culpable. Under these circumstances, the worse it gets, the more it just becomes an actual gong show that Alec Baldwin took a gun, pulled the trigger, and actually killed someone and said, well, they told me it was a cold gun. Yes, some dude told me it was a cold gun. That
not some dude, the AD, right? I don't know. Maybe this AD was feeding him guns the whole time, right? I think there's a lot of facts here that I think that we.
Job is?
What's his job?
The AD is the traffic controller on the set.
Okay.
They're misnamed as assistant director. They really are the traffic controller. So AD would be the one saying, armorer, get over here, get the gun, they set up. So the director says, I want this to happen. I need this wall over there. I need the lights to come down here. The AD's like, hey, light crew, hey, do this, hey, do that. They're like, if you're in the military, they're like the first sergeant to the captain. Okay. They tell people where to go. What they don't do, however, is they're not the person who sets the light and points it. They're not the armorer who goes and hands the gun. That is not in the purview of the job. Now, in the circumstance, and I can understand it. I'm not trying to beat him up. That's one thing I'm happy about. We were trying to be very honest and give some nuance in the video here, but he was in a hurry. Everything's a shit show. They are behind. Their budget is garbage, and low budget films are very, very run and gun. I mean, there's not a terrible term, but it's true. Time is money. And you've got an A-lister who's waiting on some, I hate to say it, but the viewpoint could be some idiot young armorer that we don't know anything about. Where the hell is that girl or whatever? Boom. Let me just grab it here. Cold gun. Let's go. Move. And that's negligence. That's a problem. And Alec Baldwin taking it, just saying, oh, yeah, going right along with this because he knows who handed it to him. They don't look anything alike. I've got pictures. She looks very different than the first AD.
Yes.
And so there's no confusion here that this is not the person who should be handing it. And that's the problem that I have getting over. You're kind of treating it like everybody on the set is a firearms expert. They're not.
No. I just want to be very clear. The thing that I'm saying is that from the conversation that we've been having, number one, we said that even if there were blanks, even if you checked the gun, you wouldn't know the difference between blanks and real ammo, right? Even if there were blanks.
If that's one fully thing. Pull it out and look.
But that's one thing that we can just kind of all right. So he wouldn't have known anyway if he would have checked. But now I'm even putting that aside and saying, was it reasonable? Because that's the question. The question is going to be, was it reasonable for him to take and come to these reasonable? That's the same thing they're doing with Kyle Rittenhouse. Is it reasonable? What a reasonable person had done this expect. So now you put all those facts that you just gave me, Eric. Low budget, this. Someone who's there working, trusted, right? This person goes and supposedly gets it from someone else. And I say, oh, this is coming from the armorer. You've been working here. I trust you. I know that. I take it. Is it reasonable for him to believe that this was okay at that time. I think the better argument is saying yes, it was reasonable at the time, even though that belief was mistaken. And I think prosecuting him for that reasonable belief is the political prosecution.
Yeah, I think that reasonableness though would depend on the other things that have been happening on set before that point, because of the fact that
Probably.
Well, we haven't even talked about Fauci juice yet.
I know, but don't worry, they'll find a way.
Juice must flow.
But I think
the bullet was loaded with the vaccine.
It's the booster.
Somebody pointed out that on any Alec Baldwin set there are mandatory shots. But anyway,
but I was going to say that. What was I saying? Oh yeah,
civil liability is really looking like a good case right now, though. Like I think we're all on the same page that we're like, and I think that's the problem, especially with a lot of people in the chat when you mention negligence. People are thinking the civil standard, and a lot of people are more in tune with the civil standard, right? And saying, hey, this would be negligence in this case. But people have to understand that criminal bar is just so much higher that I agree with Nate. Nothing is going to stick.
If you go to Blackbeard 72, he says, "Is intent needed for negligence?" Now, I don't know what the negligence is in the States, but
criminal negligence.
It depends on the charge.
Well,
criminal negligence.
Well, criminal negligence. Now, so the mens rea for criminal negligence is not necessarily to cause a specific outcome. It's just to show reckless disregard. In Canada, criminal negligence. Everyone is criminally negligent who, in doing anything, in omitting to do anything that is his duty, shows wanton or reckless disregard for the lives or safety of other persons. I have no problem knowing what I know now, saying, or at least arguing, that when Alec Baldwin is handed what he knows to be a real gun, if he doesn't open up the chamber to make sure nothing's in it before pulling the trigger, to make sure nothing is in there that's not supposed to be in there, that's criminal negligence. If there were supposed to be blanks in there, and therefore opening it up, he would not necessarily know if those were, legit bullets or blanks, lesser so. So not knowing those contexts, fine. But pulling a trigger without verifying what's in the chamber, that's criminal negligence. I don't care who gives you the gun and says it's safe.
Your audio is
somebody
kind
in the chat said I'm anti-2A.
By the way,
do they know me? Somebody in the chat just said I'm anti-2A. I'm an NRA member. What are you talking about? I'm the Trump
communist. So as our
I'm anti-2A.
They're talking about Baldwin.
I'm like, Nate? No. You got the wrong Nate if you're saying I'm anti-2A.
No. They're saying Nate that Alec Baldwin is anti-2A but has a ton of experience.
So, someone also said, I don't know if my audio was bad, but someone also said the irony of Alec Baldwin now self-harming through tweets, given what he had, argued Trump was doing for the 4 years with tweeting. It's art imitating life.
Well, the other thing that's art imitating life is actually the storyline of the movie that they were filming. Yep. Have you guys noticed that? I actually kind of just realized that today.
I didn't even know the plot.
That's
what is the plot of the movie?
Yeah, explain it.
So it's a story about Alec Baldwin's character and his grandson. I guess they were supposedly estranged. He was like a convicted felon on the run out in the West, and then he hears that his grandson accidentally shot a man and was about to be hanged, and so he goes in to like free him from the prison or whatever, and then they're on the run in the West and trying to survive, basically. So
I've heard about method acting, but
weird.
Well, the West is social media. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really.
So have we kicked this one around enough?
Yeah.
All right.
Until new details come out, but there, yeah.
I'm sure there will be soon.
But we all agree that he's civilly liable, and they're going to pay out the ass for this.
We all agree.
Someone's paying.
We all agree on that one.
I don't know if he will personally, but I guarantee
insurance
is going to get
it. Insurance is going to take care of it.
Yeah, and that might actually be the one saving grace for the industry standards at whole, is that it could be that insurance in the future says, if you have any guns on set, this is the process that we need to see in order for us to insure you guys. I don't know. Maybe that's at least me maybe being a little bit optimistic.
That's a great point. But I will point out Brandon Lee, John Eric Hexum. And this is not the first time it's happened.
How long ago they were?
That's true.
That's and how many movies and how long?
When was the most recent one? When was the most recent one?
Brandon Lee from The Crow, which was
93, I think.
93.
But that had
was a
that
great
was a
movie,
lot
The
more
Crown.
complicated than this stuff. So that had a lot
'Cause-
more.
Oh, that
Wait,
one.
when did the Twilight Zone movie come out? Was that before or after?
79.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was
So I was
Twilight
gonna
Zone
say,
with the helicopters.
Yes.
John Eric Hexum shouldn't even be counted in this conversation because
yeah, because he was
Dummy
just playing
held up
around
a
with it,
gun
right?
with a blank, put it against his head, and surprise, he died. I mean, I'm sorry, that was completely nobody's fault. He owns that, in my humble opinion.
He's accepted responsibility for it also.
Yes, he has. That's a Darwin Award. And then, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for him and his family, but
Yeah.
he did that. And then the Crow one, the Crow circumstances are just utterly fascinating if you want to break those down, because that one, that's to me the perfection of an accident to happen. How it broke down was they make dummy rounds by pulling the bullet and dumping. I'm going to say gunpowder. It's technically not gunpowder, but it's represented as okay. We're going to call it that because I don't know the other word. Cordite, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, then they discharge the primer. That's the part on the back that fires the rest to push the bullet out. Then they put the bullet back in. So now it's effectively an empty round. It does nothing. Problem was that they filled them up. Now, why they had dummy rounds in the weapon, it was just a nice big revolver, and from the front, if you look at the gun, you can see the points of the bullets in there, and it just looks so much better if you can actually see the points of the bullet. It feels strong versus, oh, those are hollow, that's a hollow cylinder. There's nothing going on in there. So anyway, that's why they had that. So they were doing the scene and everything else. One of the dummy rounds did not have the primer discharged. So they had removed the gunpowder from all the rounds, but one of them did not have the primer discharged. So at some point, somebody pulled the trigger or whatever happened, but the primer dislodged the bullet, which then went into the barrel a little bit. Not that far down the barrel. It's just enough of a charge to kind of knock it into the barrel. They then open the cylinder because they were going to do the firing, and they needed a blank. So they pull out, which would be the next round. Next dummy round, by the way, it would be, here it is, toss it on the side, put a blank in, close the weapon, point it, fire. The blank had enough discharge to take the bullet that was in the barrel, and it went into Brandon Lee.
freak
I mean, that is just completely, chain of events freakiness. I would have a lot of trouble holding someone responsible directly for that one. I feel that was definitely about as accidental as you can get. I mean, what do you guys think?
That's nuts.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
The story's
crazy.
crazy.
I always remember there was something. I remember there being a conspiracy about someone who wanted to get back at Brandon Lee, but knowing the details.
Because his father died and it was accidental.
That's an impossible accident to replicate. This is like, and the people saying this.
His father was murdered, by the way. His father was murdered.
Yeah.
He didn't die. He was murdered by like, well, I don't want to get into details because that's about the Chinese mafia.
All right. Anyway, so this is why it went crazy, because I do think it was legitimately an accident. So, yeah, that's a big one. So, okay, to move to the next subject, David, you just posted Mike Ward. He won on the field. This sounds cool.
Canada, we can still make jokes, or at least comedians can still make jokes. 5-4 split decision, and I'm more interested in the dissenting opinion than I am in the majority opinion. Anybody who doesn't know, Mike Ward, stand-up comic, had a bit called, I think in French it was Les Vaches Sacrées. It's called Sacred Cows, and he was making a joke about how there are certain Quebec celebrities that you can't joke about because you'll get canceled for it. One of them was Celine Dion. And the other one was this 13-year-old kid at the time. He might have been 10. Jeremy Gabriel, who suffers from Treacher Collins syndrome. So he's got it's a physical appearance. And in his bit, which he did at late night and it aired on his YouTube online for a bit, he made fun of him. Made fun of the way he looked, made fun of his voice, a bunch of other jokes. And the kid took him to the Human Rights Tribunal of Quebec, where he won. And in the first instance, he won, not just against the kid, but against the kid's mother for the jokes that he made. Then on appeal, I think at some point they dropped the condemnation against the mother, and it went to the Supreme Court, 5-4. They said, in the context, anybody would know that this guy was not picking on the kid because he was handicapped, or disabled. He was not making fun of an immutable feature. He was picking on the kid, as the tribunal recognized, because the kid was a celebrity, and making fun of him as an individual, not to degrade and demean and violate dignity under the charter. But 4 judges said no, he was making jokes about a handicapped kid, and that is so over the line and gross that it violates his dignity, and they would have upheld the decision. So it's just fascinating watching the dissenting opinions talk in emotional, won't somebody think of the children language, and the majority decision says, yeah, under the context, you may not find the jokes funny, but he was clearly not picking on the kid because he was handicapped. He was picking on him because he was a celebrity, and that's what you do. You roast a kid, you roast a celebrity for certain features.
And that's exactly what Chappelle was doing in the
That's
trans
scary.
community also. He wasn't really attacking the trans community. It was much more a commentary about their ability to advocate for their special interests compared to the black community, and that's really what it was not at all. He wasn't sitting there mocking men putting on dresses. That wasn't what his closer routine was about at all.
Yeah, half of it was
it
actually
shouldn't
about a
matter.
friendship that he had, a very close friendship with another comedian that was trans.
I saw that one live, and I didn't even think twice about it. When he was in Vegas, and I didn't even think twice about it. And then I was like, oh, this is an issue now. Of course it is. We're welcome to 2021.
One thing I hate is that I don't know if you guys saw the leader
Matt
of
Orfalea.
the
Matt Orfalea's video.
What's her name? Oh yeah, Matt Orfalea's video. Yes, it's weird because I would suspect Dave Chappelle, if you watch that comedy special, he said a lot of horrible things, a lot more horrible than that about being happy to, have fun on a priest's face. I'll say that, right? Those things were horrible. He's making fun of, all this other stuff. Not a peep, not a word. He said the Michael Jackson accusers should have known better because there's no free trips to Hawaii. Nobody said anything about that, right? But he says this. And now he's got to be canceled. It's like, don't you understand? These are jokes, right? These are adult jokes, and that's what you say. What's going on here?
It actually proves his point about the power of the trans community. That's exactly what his point is in the closer. And they've proven his point that no one else would have made such a strongly impacting on society that everyone's talking about it, impact because they feel offended than these men acting like
the absolute worst.
How dare you? How dare you?
The absolute worst take in the history of social media. George
Okay.
Takei's take on it, where he tweeted out, had Dave Chappelle made fun of another group, Muslims, Jews, or Asians, would Netflix have stood by his side? I was like, George,
he did make fun of it. It was
didn't watch-
space Jews.
you
He
didn't
was
watch-
he kept coming back to space Jews over and over again.
He clearly
hear
did not,
you. We
but
hear
he
you,
didn't even
Rabbi.
watch. He didn't even watch Sticks and Stones because Dave Chappelle he made fun of. He made a stereotypical impersonation of an Asian. He made fun of Jews. It's true. I didn't hear him make fun of Muslims, but I'm not going to take offense that he made fun of some but not others. But Eric, if you could be a deer and pull up the Manny Fubani super chat.
Yeah, so
Viva, mon accent me fait vouloir sauter d'un gratte-ciel. That means, David, your accent makes me want to jump off of a skyscraper. Je comprendrai jamais le québécois. I will never understand québécois. L'idée que nos ancêtres parlaient comme ça est fou. The idea that our ancestors spoke like that is nuts. I could read that in a French accent as well.
Hearing Viva read French makes me swoon. It makes me swoon.
Je peux le dire comme un français de la France aussi. But like George Takei clearly watched neither of the specials because he made fun of 2 of the 3 groups that he said they didn't make fun of. And if you don't like stand-up comedy, don't go to a stand-up comedy theater. But don't tell me I can't go.
Can I point this out too? Everybody's bending over backwards saying, well, he didn't mean, who gives a shit? It does not matter.
Yes.
What he might have meant it to be as mean as can be. That's irrelevant. It's free speech. He's a comedian. Do you guys remember Gilbert Gottfried in 2001?
Oh, the most offensive joke of all time.
Yeah. What was it? He was in a award show within like a month of September 11th. He said, I was going to catch a flight, but it had to stop at the Empire State Building. And
Gilbert Gottfried, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, Gilbert Gottfried is, I believe, from what I'm told, a very bizarre human. Foulest stand-up comedy you've ever heard. But someone said that he didn't make fun of Muslims because he converted to Islam. But he's black. He made a lot of jokes about blacks.
I thought he was
Oh
Jewish.
my God, his whole Chappelle show. Have you watched the Chappelle show? It's all about making fun of black people.
I don't think
I think a lot of these people haven't watched Richard Pryor, haven't watched.
Oh,
Eddie
yeah.
Murphy.
Oh no, they
I'm
haven't.
talking
been-
about just if you sit through one of those things, you can't today. If they were to
Eddie
say those
Murphy.
same jokes today, they're gone. It's like but
Oh, Eddie
It's-
Murphy.
it's-
Talk about Mel
Yeah,
Brooks.
And Eddie Murphy is
No, oh
very
my God,
concerned.
Mel Brooks.
Hold on, Eddie Murphy's very concerned about the trans community.
If anybody doesn't know what Eric is talking
God.
about, Google
Oh my
it. Your
God.
mind.
I'm just saying, while we're gonna talk about.
And if anybody, I mean, we're showing our age, but if anybody has not seen Eddie Murphy's Delirious or Raw, I mean, that's
So
when
good.
stand-up comedy was no holds barred stand-up comedy, and Richard Pryor. I mean, we classics. And
Lenny Bruce got locked up multiple times to give everybody this chance. Okay, I mean, he was arrested over and over and over, all the way back in the early '60s for this point. It's comedy. It's not meant to.
They don't, but Eric, they don't comprehend comedy. They don't get it, right? I mean, it's all got to be literal. It's all got to be serious. It's all got to be.
Don't go.
A minute by
Don't
minute.
go. It's
struggle,
not
yeah.
for you. It's not for you.
They're
I
not
don't like
going, they're
romance
just complaining.
novels. Okay, I don't beat up people for writing no romance novels. I just don't read them.
Eric,
cancel romance.
I took
Blazing
you as a
Saddles. Somebody
Twilight
put
guy,
aside there. Oh,
Oh,
Blazing
Blazing
Saddles. Can
Saddles.
Blazing
Blazing
Saddles
Saddles.
be made
No
today?
way.
The sheriff is a ding.
you can't
Well,
even say that you watch, you can't even say that you like Blazing Saddles because you'll get branded a racist.
Yeah.
You'll get
Yeah.
Even
Oh
more,
my God.
even more modern, Tropic Thunder. They cannot remake.
Oh, no,
Tropic
and
Thunder.
that's
Oh,
not the
yeah.
last
way.
of it.
Oh my God, so
Honestly,
funny. I
I'm
like
surprised
that.
that Robert Downey Jr. hasn't gotten canceled over that.
They tried to. They tried to give him a
It's,
couple.
it's,
of
it's close.
Yeah.
He made
At
it
the
on the
time-
cusp
Yeah.
of it.
At the
Yeah,
time,
I know.
remember-
He went on Joe Rogan and he talked about it, and he was like, I mean, the whole point was that that whole character was commentary on Hollywood, on everything that they do. And so he was like, that was the
so
whole
wet behind
point.
the ears. Back then, I don't remember there being the racial controversy. I remember there being the mentally I don't even know what the word is.
Simple Jack.
Mentally handicapped.
Simple Jack. That's what I
Yeah,
remember being the
Simple Jack.
controversy at the time, is that the use of the R word and making fun of mentally challenged. Not
Never go
racially.
full. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
never
that's-
go, yeah.
But
But
I
then
just-
somebody
I-
else said we can't get that, so let's get them on this, right?
Yep.
I never liked the movie just because I found the violence in it, even though it was supposed to be comedy. I found it, knowing that it was supposed to be real in the movie. I didn't like the violence.
But the fact about that character though was the joke about
Everything,
what's
yes.
it called, appropriation of other races, like, oh, we got a white guy playing a black guy. That was the joke of the whole thing.
Yep.
And then but that joke now became, okay, let's cancel him because of something that was supposed to be satirical. That's what I'm saying. And that's, thank God we have the freedom of speech here in the United States and we're not in Canada.
Barely.
For the
Barely.
moment.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
But by the way, the way that movie was brilliant was it opened. You know how they do ads before movies? It opened with
Booty
that
talk,
booty
yeah.
juice commercial. And my wife and I, we were on the theater, and she was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Because they did it so perfectly, it actually seemed like it might have been a preloaded commercial before the movie. It was
Yeah.
I'm gonna
so
tell you one thing.
tight,
Though.
and,
I was
mean, it's
waiting
just
on that Supreme
brilliant.
Court. I was waiting on that Supreme Court decision because if it went the other way,
Pretty
I was
split.
taking Dave Chappelle to the Human Rights Tribunal over that Space Jew joke. Okay, I was crying and shaking after I watched that.
With laughter.
I'm joking. Yeah. No, well,
But isn't that just Mel Brooks? Jews in space.
Yeah.
Well, that was Chappelle's joke. But the premise of Chappelle's joke about
No, but that
a
comes
group-
from History of the World Part 1. When he's like, but wait, there's more in History of the World Part 2. You'll see Jews in space. And then they're like, we're Jews in space.
Yeah, but more people have seen Chappelle than Mel
Well, no,
Brooks
but
at
I
this
also
point.
think
Sorry, guys.
Recently.
No, but the underlying, the
good.
bigger part of Chappelle's joke was about a group of people who go from one planet to another, destroying it, and that is playing on some of the stereotypical tropes against the space Jews, so to speak. There was another level to that joke, but yeah, no, it's people. If you can't laugh at other people, you can't laugh at yourself. Okay, that was
Speaking of the movie, his Avatar is the perfect.
yeah. Joseph has got. So that's
All
it.
right.
That's out of Canada. What's out of the States, guys? You guys are,
Out of the States, I'm actually fighting against First Amendment because I saw a Twix commercial, and I basically never want to have freedom of speech ever again.
All right, moving on. Rittenhouse.
Oh yeah, Rittenhouse.
Speaking of political prosecutions,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Oh,
political.
Rittenhouse.
Well,
is
Nate,
interesting.
you just did a video that's also crushing it on the victim status of the not being able to refer to them as victims and people, politicizing that decision one way and the other.
Oh,
Yeah, I had a couple of lawyers actually reach out to me and tell me that video was good. So I was like happy. I was like,
Aw.
okay, some people in the field. Yeah, they're like, oh man, you did a really good video.
That's always a really good sign when you have lawyers telling you, like, hey, I wish I could get CLE credit for this.
Yeah, I should be
obviously,
getting so much CLE credit at this point.
That's what we should be doing. We
wouldn't-
should be labeling this a CLE course.
CLEs, right?
Then
I want to give full
requirements.
disclosure.
No.
No,
Then
you-
you're gonna
you
have
have
the
to- you
CLE
have to go and
mafia
get-
coming for us. We can't handle that heat. Copyright trolls ain't got nothing on the CLE
No, because
mafia.
CLE, for the
my
audience,
God.
they don't know, is continuing legal education. So every jurisdiction has their own requirements as to how much, every time you re-register, which is like every 2 years in New York, I assume same in most jurisdictions.
Every
you
year
have-
in Virginia.
Every year.
Oh, yeah? So you have to tell them
Yeah,
how many,
every year.
you have to take a minimum number of continuing legal education courses because they assume we've forgotten everything, or I don't know. So someone's making gobs of money on it. And the way to get around it is, instead of if you're taking CLE courses, if you give CLE courses and you get approved, most places will give you
K-pop
credit
speech.
for that, and now you don't have to take CLE courses. So if we get accredited for doing this, we're done with CLEs. It's awesome.
So this is CLE here? Whoa, amazing.
Well, yeah, only if you get it accredited, though.
You can
actually,
apply for it.
So,
if they
but
grant
that
it.
would be awesome.
I applied,
Like-
by the way. I applied to see if they would recognize anything I did on my channel as
Really?
CLE in Quebec. I think I may have said things about the government that tainted their.
Oh.
I did not get an answer. I paid the $25 though, but I didn't get an answer.
Wow. I didn't know you guys had it up there.
Yeah, you got 30 hours every 2 years with a minimum of a few hours in ethics, and then you have to do the accounting if you hold a trust account. So you have to do 30 hours every
Yeah.
2 years. And our bar license costs $3,000 to maintain
Oh.
yearly.
Yearly?
Yeah, no, it's
Yearly.
crazy,
Holy
yeah.
shit, dude.
Canadian though, so it's like
Wow.
Well, still,
Yeah, so
but
that's
I think
only like
my
$800.
bar license is $250.
We pay
Wait, how much
300
did you say, Viva?
$3,000, $3,000.
That's a lot. That's more than California.
It's nuts.
New,
And DC
New York
combined.
is 300 every 2 years.
How much is
Yeah.
California
Oh, really?
costing you?
Yeah.
California's like,
Well, hold on, though.
if I remember
Viva,
correctly, I did it at the beginning of the year. I think it's 600, and then DC is like another 250, I think.
But Viva,
Yeah.
don't you guys get to practice nationwide? So like, isn't that an
Not in
advantage?
not in Quebec. In Quebec, if you're
Oh, of
certified
course,
for
of
civil,
course.
you can only do in the province. But federal stuff you can do anywhere. Like bankruptcy or criminal. But if you're common law, then you can practice anywhere outside of Quebec in any of the provinces, but not in Quebec, except for federal. So, yeah,
Do you
can
guys
see
have to
rack-
renew on your birthday also? Because that's what we have here in New York. It's like, hey, happy birthday. That's what New York's saying to me.
For us, it's whatever April or March.
I do owe Virginia 8 hours between now and the 31st. So there's that.
I had
Well, there's
I
two
had that
today.
this last
I submitted mine late.
January, February. I realized I needed to submit my audit or not audit, but I had to certify that I did my latest 25 hours for California, and I spent like an entire weekend just binging CLE material. That was fun.
And
are
CLE material, I don't know about your experience, but the ones I do are always mind-numbingly boring and
So
make me
bad.
question my will to live.
And that's why you put them
Human
on
sedative.
1.5x speed.
But we can't do that here.
That's
Here
true,
you
yeah.
got to play
2x
regular speed, and then you got to click at the end of each session. Sometimes you have to answer questions to show that you're actually.
Yeah, I have
paying
to click
attention.
like
Yeah, you can't-
twice
and
in
you can't
between
click
like
some
random
phrase.
intervals and be
You
like,
haven't
yeah.
watched
Yeah,
all
listen
this
to the
long
word.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
there
have
was
to
an
listen
ethics
for
one
the
that I had to
word.
do
It's
for
like a
DC.
word
That was
there.
like that.
I continue to measure the quality of my own channel by a CLE, and I'm feeling real good. Real good.
Kurt, are you certified in Texas now, or
No, not yet. I probably should at some point, but I've never bothered to apply.
okay?
I lived in Jersey for 16 years now. I'm still not admitted here. So
Nate, what did you tweet out today about Keemstar and Crystal Ball? I tried to follow it.
Oh yeah.
'Cause
She
that-
was
Are you kidding?
No,
No, well, yeah, well, supposedly this is supposedly what's going on. Crystal Ball, Keemstar's retiring, right? He's retiring. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
been
so
on that
then all of a
forever.
sudden, without a crystal ball, she goes after him by saying, something, like your channel's dying, so good riddance or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously.
That's the ultimate
So
clout
then-
chase. There we go.
So then I'm expecting Keemstar with 5 million, subs would just say, I'm not gonna bother with this $100,000 sub channel. So what? She said something bad. This guy goes on a full rant against her. So now, and for the people who don't know, this is what she lives off of. She lives off of getting people to punch down. So now everybody's talking about her. Now she's getting all those hate views. Now that's the way.
Maybe she's giving him a kickback. Maybe it's part of his pension, you know, because I mean, he goes after her. He's like passing the torch to her, and then she can just, pay him out the back door. You know,
Crystal Ball, the next host of Drama Alert.
Yes, but listen, to show you how crazy these guys are. So he then responds by going into her past and saying, and she had like a DUI or something like that, allegedly. So he goes and brings that up, right? So then she goes and now she's digging into his past, and now he's got unpaid taxes from like 2 years ago. So then he responds. So now it's like this big war.
But it was like it was a lot though, right?
That was like $200,000, but he paid it though. He paid it like in that 30, show you how much money he's making, right?
Yep.
He paid it like immediately.
Jesus, that's crazy. Yeah,
well, you can cut a $200,000 check to the IRS.
And by the way, that's $230,000. It's probably corporate tax. So I don't know what your corporate tax rate is compared to your personal, but that makes more than that through the corporations. But actually, Nate, we got sidetracked. Rittenhouse.
Yes, people are annoyed. They don't care about Katie Joe.
Nobody
blame me.
But anyway, just full disclosure, I think Rittenhouse is full self-defense. I've looked at the video. I think myself, we all agree, right? I don't think
nobody disagrees on that.
This is not the Alec Baldwin thing.
No one on this
people disagree. Legal mindset. People disagree. Yeah, people do disagree with that.
Yes.
I think Joe's disagreeing with that. Joe, you disagree.
Hold on. Joe has a hypo that's really off tangent, but we're gonna get to it.
Wow, that's cold.
I love you, Joe.
Thank you, brother. So, if you watch TYT,
did you have anything? No.
If you watch TYT, if you watch Young Turks, this is, I'm sure you all watch it religiously. I spent my show yesterday breaking down 2 of their videos and the insanity of Cenk Uygur. And the first one I was covering was their freak out about the decisions from the motions in limine from this week in the Rittenhouse case.
Oh, I should watch that. That'd be good.
What's a motion in limine? Joe?
Preliminary motions.
The preliminary motions determine how they're going to pre-trial motions determine how they're going to conduct the trial. So in these motions in limine, they basically decided this week, the Judge Schroeder decided that assuming it's established at trial that they were looters or arsonists, then in closing the defense counsel can refer to the decedents as looters, arsonists, and he actually said if you think it's wise to demonize them, then you can have at it. And Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur went nuts that the judge was saying, hey, he's advising them to demonize the decedents. Plus, the judge also said that the prosecution cannot refer to the decedents as victims because that's a loaded word. And it implies...
If you think it's wise, basically counseling against...
Yes, and that was my point. They were freaking out. That he said, how can you tell them? They said, you can demonize them if you think it's wise. I'm like, dude, that's the judge's subtle and not so subtle way of saying, look, you're allowed to do it if you establish it, but I think it's a dumb move because if you demonize them, you might make them sympathetic and angry at your client. So that's what the judge was saying. But they took it exactly 180 degrees the other way because they're crazy progressives. But this is the reason I brought up TYT. They were under the impression that there is video out there of Kyle chasing people with a gun. Have any of you ever seen any video that you could have possibly interpreted as Kyle chasing someone with a gun? Because all I saw was in the first video, he's running away from someone. To me, he was running away from this guy who's 5 times his size and trying to run around a car like a 9th grader running away from a senior in high school. He's being chased by a senior, and he's running around the other side of the car trying to get away from this guy who's much bigger than him. And then the next thing we know, when he's on the other side of the car, Rosenbaum has been removed from the planet. But and then the next video, that's what I'm wondering is, did I miss video where he's actually chasing someone with a gun?
Take that video and play it backwards. That's the only way you're getting that.
Hey, Joe.
You've not missed anything.
Joe, there's
you're muted, Viva.
Good call on Young Turks. Actual Justice Warrior Sean Fitzgerald has almost made his entire channel reacting to the Young Turks. So keep it up. Get some growth.
Yeah.
It's a dishonest framing of anything, because if he's running with a gun, there are people all around him just because there's people everywhere. You can dishonestly say he was chasing someone with a gun. I mean, it imputes intent to Rittenhouse that you'll never be able to prove or disprove.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically that's a fair point. Even as he's running away, he must necessarily be running towards somebody. I guess
towards him backwards.
There are enough people around him, right?
Really?
There's someone in that direction
on.
somewhere. If you run far enough in that direction, you will eventually hit somebody. Yeah.
Now I was surprised, but just hearing the headline where the judge said you can't refer to them as a victim. I was sort of surprised just because, from a what's the word? Not a colloquial definition of a victim doesn't necessarily impute that they were the victim of a wrongdoing, but rather they just got hurt doing something. But from what I understand, it's now I know it was the same in other cases where race and politics would not be able to reconcile the similarities. So Nate can probably elaborate.
Yeah,
better.
Because a lot of people were shocked that it was in what's it called? George Floyd. In the George Floyd case, Eric Nelson brought that pretrial motion. Don't call him a victim. Don't call him Jesus, right? They brought that up, and the judge said, preferably call him Mr. Floyd, even though they allowed them to use. But even in that trial, they really called him a victim. They only called him Mr. Floyd. And then in Ahmaud Arbery's case, there's a live motion now for the same exact thing. Anytime you have someone killed by someone else and you're going to trial, one of the preliminary things is let's not call them victims because that hasn't been established yet. Because especially in self-defense, particularly
that's
in
what
self-defense.
the trial is, isn't it?
So,
the trial
yeah,
ultimately
the trial
will
is-
say
It's
that
one of
they're
the
a
legal
victim or not.
conclusions of the case. It's one of the
so if
legal
you're saying-
conclusions of the case.
Exactly.
That's like anytime you're talking about something that is one of the legal conclusions that the jury ultimately needs to get to, you can't put the cart before the horse. Like the judge is going to be especially careful about those kinds of terms, those kinds of conclusions, more so than other ones, like for example, rioters and looters, because that's not one of the ultimate conclusions. That is something that can help you get there. But so if they include evidence, or if they present enough evidence to show that, to establish that they were rioting, that they were looting, then yeah, it is an accurate description of what they were doing.
And the funny thing is that everything from that pretrial motion seems like it was just the normal law as it is, as we all understand it, as we all see it. It's the fact that anybody would blow that out of proportion to be, oh my God, it's so ridiculous. Oh my God, it's so crazy. It's like, no, that's the law, and that's the way it's always worked.
Yeah, they don't know
every
that.
case.
And that
That's
is-
the way.
Why
and
talk
then we
about
show
the law when you
application
can talk
for
about the
shot.
outrage?
But they're not good faith players. I mean, that's
no,
the
they're
bottom line.
arguing to a
continue-
conclusion. They have a
I continue to
conclusion.
be a little bit I still fail to understand like the outrage for this though. It's like because you would think the video would tell the tale, but
The
they
video-
still
I
are
understand
outraged
that.
that he's not in jail forever. I'm not.
I understand
sure
that.
why.
It's because it was a BLM protest, and they feel like they could have been there themselves. Like that's basically what it is. That's what every progressive feels like. I could have been at this rally, and now the right are bringing guns to it, which is creating a situation where
No,
I'm
you're
more
giving them
likely.
too much credit, Joe.
Joe, the problem here is, and because I've argued with people about this, right? And everybody says, "Oh, he bought a gun, he did this." Is like number one. There's a whole bunch of people with guns, right? Somebody actually pointed a gun at him that he shot, right? So that so just making it seem like he was the only person there with a gun is ridiculous. If you really look at the case, he was there as a makeshift EMT. He did a whole interview about it. He's there to help people. He's got a go bag, like he's doing it. And only time he even fired at someone is when the guy's lunging for him to grab his weapon behind a car. So the whole thing, they're trying to make it seem like this is one of the few cases where a white guy shoots 3 other white guys, and it's a racial and it's racist.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
what?
funny.
How did this get intertwined? It just doesn't make any sense.
Nate, the Young Turks are arguing
makes
against that
complete
cop
sense.
in Columbus. Okay, they are not
Yes,
legitimate
yes.
players. They have Jesus. Anyway, they have an intention. They're always arguing to conclusion. You know what their conclusion is, no matter what case it is. They will always argue to it. I don't give them any credit for coming up with any reason for fear. They might be able to. No, they're always going to argue to that conclusion. I have never seen them ever stand up and acknowledge, oh, well, maybe that's not quite the way we thought.
But I do want to make something very clear, because I think a lot of people don't realize this, is that self-defense is not just a one-way street. Like, it's not only just one person can claim self-defense. You could have the scenario where 2 people are justified in claiming self-defense. And I think in this case, you do have that. I think after Kyle shot someone and then people started screaming, stop that guy, he shot someone, and people were trying to stop him, they are technically justified in self-defense of others, right? They think this guy is an active shooter. But then I also think on the other side, Kyle is proper in self-defense because they're coming to attack him. So in that situation, it's a weird situation, but you could have a situation where both sides are justified in the use of self-defense and it doesn't fit, it's uncomfortable, but that's how the law really is. And it's actually written that way in the law. Self-defense is individual specific. And I think that's what you have in this case where those people who are attacking him at the end who thought he was an active shooter, I think they could be justified in self-defense, but I also think he was justified in his use of self-defense.
Right, but they're not being prosecuted, Nate.
Exactly. And also
like an illegal vacuum. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Nate's exactly right, because you have both people both acting against the other one, and both people might be legally in the right, which is a uncomfortable conclusion. But yeah, I think I said that exactly the same thing in like one of my first videos about Kyle Rittenhouse. Back when the video was brand new, I'm like, yeah, they're both in the right. So yeah.
So then no charge.
Could be.
That's the thing. There never should have been charges. I think there's enough evidence on the ground that any reasonable prosecutor, keep that in mind. I'll put scare quotes around reasonable.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Would not have charged.
Well, this is an interesting question. Should we always charge someone who admits to gunning someone down in self-defense? As far as and forget about Rittenhouse, do you think that that's a healthy use of our justice system, that we vet out every self-defense case or not? And I think you can make that claim. You can make that claim both ways, because at the end of the day, it's always going to come down to a question of fact when you're talking about self-defense. So I'll ask each of counselors, do you think that that's a healthy use of our judicial system to say anytime there's a self-defense claim, it should go before a jury for them to decide whether or not the person's guilty?
Well, I'll tell you this. For officers in New York, if you discharge your weapon and kill somebody, they take it straight to the grand jury. Here it is. And let them make the decision whether they're going to charge you or not. That's what they do. They take it. If you kill someone with your weapon or injure someone, they say, okay, well, here's the investigation. Now the investigation can say I'm totally cleared, but they'll take it to the grand jury and say, what do you think? And if they clear you, then you're good. That's what they did with the choke cases, to do with all those cases. So that's why cops really hate that, because it's like, you're putting it in. Especially if it's something that's obvious, but they do that here.
But do you think that's right?
But the person presenting it can present it in a lot of different ways. So it's like, do they really?
Yeah.
Eric, can you pull up the comment that's 2 down from Grim Bear's super chat? Because this one is making me laugh when I read it.
Okay.
It's the Hitler Youth haircut.
It's not the first time or last time, trust me. And I'm only going to get it more Hitler looking this weekend when I trim it up.
Nick Ricada got
Maybe
the same
I should get the placement right.
There you go. This explains the underlying tension between Joe and I.
Someone else has, right above that chat, someone says an EMT with an AR. Sure he is. This was the only question I had from the beginning of the case, is that if he showed up possessing an illegal firearm, does that change any of his defensive?
It wasn't illegal.
I just said if, because I know now that's not the case. I see. If this guy shows up with illegally possessing a firearm and then uses it in legit self-defense, does that change anything as far as his self-defense could otherwise go?
No, it wouldn't. And you see cases like that even with convicted felons. You see convicted felons use a firearm in self-defense. The self-defense claim is valid. There's still going to be problems for using the firearm, but the self-defense claim is still valid.
So then, then it's true. Like the other guy there, the one who got shot in the arm, showed up with an illegal firearm, a concealed firearm to a protest. No charges against him, despite the admission that he had on Facebook. So,
and was this the guy who also was a convicted felon in his case?
Yes, I
Diddler. Yeah. But this happened.
He didn't get charged by the feds. That's sad.
No, I don't think he's. No. This happened here in New York, where there was a 60-year-old guy. It was actually right around the corner from where we were working. There was a 60-year-old guy. 2 guys broke into the store to rob them, and they both had handguns. So this guy had an illegal shotgun under the counter. So so one of the guys turned around, and this 60-year-old guy, which I got to say, he's really good. He pumped the shotgun and hit them both cold. Boom, boom, killed them both. So the DA comes, right? They're like, okay, illegal shotgun, illegal list. So they are trying to charge the guy. The cops refused to arrest the guy because they were like, there's no way that you got 2 armed robbers. He just stopped and saved his employees. And now you want to arrest him for an illegal handgun? Like, come on, this is ridiculous. But I think that's where our jury system then does work, because at some, when something like that happens, then yes, even though this person had an illegal firearm, that has nothing to do with his self-defense claim, especially I think in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where it's clear. I don't think you can make it even clearer when somebody's running away from someone and has to get cornered and then discharges. And then let's not even forget, at the end of that altercation, somebody else ran up to Kyle, he pointed the gun at them, and when the guy retreated, he did not fire. So it showed I don't think there's anything more classic about his self-defense.
Can I go on the opposite end?
The racism piece is the one that's killing me.
I got to push back. I don't. Okay. I guess because I study human behavior, I don't trust juries, and I don't trust people, and I don't trust that a defendant, especially somebody poor or broke or whatever, they do something in self-defense using the theory that every self-defense goes to trial. Was that Joe or you, Nate?
That was my question.
Well, no, I don't believe
that.
I don't believe they should go to trial.
Well, let me push it back out. Anyway, so I have problems with it because you have experts who are evaluating it. You have an investigation. You don't just flat out say, "Oh, we're not going to do anything." There are cops, there are experts, they're gathering evidence, and upon gathering all the evidence and all that, and I'm not a lawyer, but the way I understand it is they do a full investigation, then they hand it over to whomever is going to make the charges, a DA or whatever. All this evidence has been gathered, and then now you have an expert saying, okay, is the law being broken according to the laws of the state? They measure it, and they charge or they don't charge. By charging people or forcing them to go to trial, that's going to potentially put the risk of innocent people going to prison. Not only that, there's the smear factor of just going to trial. You are wearing this over you, that you are charged with this, or you have been to trial. Even if you get off, you're still wearing that forever. What does that do to your job, your family, and everything else? If it is very clear that you should not have been charged. So I'm going to push back and say that, no, I don't think that you should automatically have everything go in front of a jury, because a jury can get it wrong and often will.
Well, you're not pushing back. I agree with you 100%. I don't think, if it's clear that you're just wasting everyone's time by going to a jury. So I agree with you 100%. But that's what they do in New York with law enforcement. I think that's wrong, but they do that though.
And they don't do that in every state is what I'm saying. Like, I know that that's not how we roll down here in Florida. So,
but South Korea, who knows?
Yeah. Well, no firearms. So, I mean, that's a whole thing.
Let's talk about Squid Games. Yeah.
Well, here, let's talk. When I was in West Virginia over the weekend,
I can talk about Squid Games.
All right.
Someone gave me this. It says "No Step on Sneck," and it's supposed to be a parody of the "Don't Tread on Me." But I don't know if this is gonna. I don't know if this has any meaning that I'm gonna get in trouble for wearing it.
I never heard of that.
I haven't heard the meme.
Definitely odd Gaston flag.
I'm a man of culture.
Yes, it's a parody of that, and apparently I looked up the "No Step on Sneck," and it says it's a simpler way parody of describing another sentence, which was "Don't tread on me." I like it. Let's see what the chat. Oh, look at this. No step.
I like it.
Okay, I think the chat might know what this is. Will I get in trouble? Am I sending a message that I don't know that I'm sending by wearing this? That's my question.
Sneck does not mean phallus. Don't worry, David. You're good.
Well, snake does. So I mean, that's don't tread on me. Okay,
see, you just relied on the collective knowledge of the internet, and
Luke Rudkowski. Okay, I didn't know that. It's okay.
Yeah. No, you just relied on the collective knowledge of the internet, which is a source you always cite as something that
it is greater than my own.
Cannot be ignored. Sure. Yeah. And I quoted you yesterday when I was talking about Rittenhouse, and I said, if there's one person who's not racist, you have to realize that the collective knowledge of the internet has poured over everything this kid has ever written online in his life. There you go. Any friends he's ever spoken to, whoever said anything, if he ever said anything remotely racial, we would all know precisely when he said it and what he said. Obviously, he's not racist.
I think he's mixed race. I think he has Latino blood in him.
Latinx.
Yeah.
Oh, Latinx. Yeah, they love.
Well, that was the whole thing with Zimmerman too. You're trying to make these people that would not.
Yes, is Zimmerman white or not? Yes, this is
exactly.
the.
It's like let me tell you
it's
about
Schrodinger's
the Hispanic. That I grew up with.
Yeah, he's white today.
Well, I think with Kyle Rittenhouse, though, let's just call it what it is. There are a lot of racists who are supporting it because they believe that he's white and because of that narrative. But that doesn't mean that he's racist. And I think that's what the media is trying to say. Hey, because white racists will, support him, that automatically impugns that he happens to be racist too, which is not the case.
And he didn't help himself by appearing in the bar with the Proud Boys, even though that was a bullshit run-up. statement,
Well-
it still didn't help.
well,
It-
now-
it
now
is,
no-
watch your company.
Well, especially now knowing what we know about January 6th and some members who were FBI informants, one can wonder in what other circumstances similar chicanery has not been afoot.
Yeah.
All true, except I didn't see the FBI guy in the room.
No, there was no. Well, never mind. I won't venture into too many theories. And Nate and I still have to have a debate as to the plausibility of our respective positions on whether January 6th could be more easily qualified as an insurrection or potentially something that was allowed to happen to be weaponized for political purposes.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was an
I think Riot is
insurrection.
the best discussed.
But I think it was
Right.
right. Yeah, I've already made that clear. I think, but I do think there were some
Siege.
people who did
I
plan
agree.
to go there for an insurrection like that. I think there's no doubt about that. And it's funny because before the January 6th,
He's got the
like
haircut.
the cops and everything had all this evidence about it. So they had all the evidence, and people
but
had
Nate,
maps and bring
that's
guns and do all this, and let's go take it over.
I
So I
understand,
think
but Nate-
those people, those small group of people, yes. But I think overall, I think it just became a riot, and I think the police
But Nate-
were not.
Wait, this is a
prepared
legitimate
for it.
question. Wow.
No, but
Can a counselor ask an investigating officer if they agree that charges are warranted, or is that not allowed?
Sure, you can ask. Why not?
Yeah,
You may
I've
not
asked
get an
that
answer.
But hold on, Nate, before I forget, what you just said there, the FBI knew that there were certain people who were going there with insurrectionist intentions. Okay, that's a double-edged
Yes.
sword, because if the FBI knew that and then did nothing to act on it and arguably even facilitated it, then the question becomes, if knowing something's going to happen, but you do nothing to stop it, thus trying to enable it to happen so that you can weaponize it for political purposes, is that not exactly the same type of potential setup that I'm talking about? Because your point doesn't disprove my theory. I think it might actually prove it even more. They
If they're
knew
doing
it.
it for political purposes, then yeah, that's a
They're
problem.
letting it happen. Let the tragedy
Yeah.
happen so we can weaponize it, and then let it happen.
Well,
and maybe we'll get one of our boys in there just to lead him in to show
have
where
to
it
be
is.
you have to be a bit careful on that, Viva, because the FBI does broadly that all the time.
I
They-
know.
They
Yeah.
learn. They
Yeah.
learn about. They
9/11.
learn about a thing. They get involved.
know about
They help to
9/11. They didn't stop
facilitate.
it.
Blah blah blah. And sometimes it gets questionable, like Gretchen Whitmer when the
I
whole
know,
kidnapping
but
plot, where the
this is
FBI are so
exact-
involved. Even I'm like, wait a second, this might be entrapment. It looks sketchy.
but this is what I said. This is exactly. Nate, I don't remember what you said, but you said that you said my theory is so implausible because that sounds like the FBI set it up. And it's like, yeah, I agree. And then I
Yeah.
showed you the crack, the cocaine. The crack.
Well, I wasn't saying it was implausible. I was saying that the FBI learns about the thing and gets involved and sometimes facilitates. They literally do that
No.
all the time.
They could
But I want to
decide
make
it.
it very clear.
Yeah.
The FBI, that's what they do, right? They put informants. 9/11, Oklahoma City, they had an informant, right? They have informants for all these places. They have people on the inside, mobs and stuff like that, right? These people do bad things, but just because the FBI is infiltrated and bad things happen doesn't mean
Yeah.
the FBI is the
yeah,
one
but
that's
how
pushing
about-
it forward.
well,
I would
because-
suspect that the fact that the FBI had people there, informants who were in there, that doesn't mean that they were the ones running the show. That doesn't
Well,
have
also,
to be.
how
Then
much,
you would have to
how
blame it
much
for 9/11.
information? Also, how much information did they have leading up to the event to be able to adequately act on it, right? To say that they had enough confidence to say that, okay, yes, this is definitely going to happen. We should act on it, prevent it from happening, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, just to
don't
answer
know.
that question, the authorities, if you read the news articles before the event, they were making fun of the quote unquote upcoming insurrection. They were saying things like Trump supporters wishful thinking about taking over the Capitol. Trump supporters, here are all the
geez.
plans and the maps and everything. Here are the people, they said bring guns. Ha ha ha, they're dummies, things like that. But then
Oh
after
my.
it happened, then it was kind of like, we didn't know this was going to happen. So I am sympathetic to Viva's point. They did
Yeah.
know everything was going to go down, and they did not.
I mean, if the
plan for it.
media,
Viva is
if the
right.
media
I
knew,
can't
they
argue
were
with
writing
that.
about it.
Right.
Didn't
Yeah.
Trump
And they made
ask
fun
for
of it. They made
10,000?
fun of
Hold
it.
on, Nate. Didn't Trump
And-
ask for 10,000 National Guard to be there?
that
No, well,
there
he
seems to be
kind of
some-
held it back during time at that point too. But I do want to make one more point: is that they asked the Capitol Police directly. They said, "Here's all they're saying. Here it is." Right? It was in a paper called the Washingtonian, and they said, "Here is everything. This is what they're saying," and they laughed it off. So Viva is correct. It wasn't like this was shocking or new. They knew they were coming. They knew where they're coming for this purpose, and they didn't prepare for it. So Viva is 100% correct. I'm not disagreeing with that.
And to strike down one partisan talking point, it wasn't Trump that had the authority to refuse to fortify Capitol Police. It was the Capitol Police
Mayor
themselves
Bowser.
that declined to do it, or the Capitol. It was the Washington. So
Well,
but all that being said,
it was Congress's job too. They handled it.
Negligence
well.
this time. Okay, fine. If it were the first time and I didn't have concrete evidence where the FBI was not arguably but definitively running the show, like with selling crack in LA in the 80s, like with the gun running. If I didn't have those concrete examples, maybe I'd give them the benefit of the doubt. But I have now those two examples offhand. The
That's
Whitmer
CIA,
plot.
though.
Oh, sorry.
That's CIA.
Well, I'm sorry.
The
I
crack
meant
stuff is CIA.
I meant intelligence at large. I didn't mean FBI in particular. Intelligence at large. So, if it were the first time they screwed up, oh yeah, we were there, we had informants, and it happened. We'd better give us a raise. Fine. When knowing what they have done in the past will allow me to make some hypotheses as to what they're doing in the present, because it really smells like what's happening in the past.
By the way,
but then you have
Viva,
to make
while
that
you're
argument
talking
for
about that,
9/11, though.
Nearly
while you're talking about that,
9/11
nearly 80 years ago, there was the Reichstag fire, and to this day, historians cannot figure out whether or not the Reichstag fire was
a false flag,
or
Yeah.
whether who was behind it. Was it really communist, or was it really, because it really could have been either, or was it really the Nazi Party?
My
and I think that might be the same thing over
Could be
here. I
both.
think this is the same Reichstag fire. I think this is our Reichstag fire.
I think my understanding is historically, I think the more accepted premise is that it was a false flag specifically set up so that Hitler could invoke emergency powers. That's my.
I looked this up on January 6th.
That's-
I looked
yeah,
up the
that's
Reichstag fire because to me, I felt the Reichstag fire. This is our Reichstag fire, where it's going to be used as an opportunity to punish the right and say that the right is dangerous, and that's why to me the analogy was really apt. And yes, I agree with you. My gut says it was probably the Nazi Party that was behind it, but we still don't know that for sure. And I think that it's very possible over here with you can have all these different theories to establish why it is that it was actually Democrats who were setting this in motion. If not, and some perhaps being actively involved as informants or working for the FBI. There's certainly a lot of factors here to make you question how much of it was prodded by the left as a basis to punish the right, and how much was it actually conservatives who were outraged over what they felt was a lack of election integrity.
And then to weaponize it afterwards, where even if the incident itself it was definitely a riotous event. But then to weaponize it afterwards and to turn it into an existential, I was so scared I was hiding and trembling under my desk. And
never let a good crisis go to waste.
No, and then bring up the official debunked lie. Well, they're debunked now, but bring up those lies in the second impeachment. Oh, Eric.
By the way, I got to take the opportunity to grift. You guys are interrupting us.
Grifted hard because you're at 2,500 subs, Eric.
Wow, you beat
not
the
quite.
other channel.
What are you
Nice.
doing, you beast?
So everybody help out. And as David was talking about, the CIA happened to have a trilogy all about the CIA, from Hollywood to the news to family of the CIA, not to mention other ties, all on America's Untold Stories, and more to come with that. Mort Saul just died. Guess what he was railing against? CIA. By the way, David, you'll appreciate it. Mort Saul was born in Montreal.
We might be related. I have to.
I don't know. Yeah, never
and by the way,
know. So,
you know what Mort means in French?
Montreal or Iceland?
Mort, by the way, I suspect his name was Mortimer. Mort is French for dead.
But you know what though? It's one thing. I do understand the argument for January 6th, but then because this argument can be made for a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests, right? Because there are undercover police.
Thank you.
Remember, there was one of the Black Lives Matter protests. Hold on, let me finish this. It was one of the Black Lives Matter protests where they had undercover cops, and there happened to be black undercover cops, and the cops who were at the Black Lives Matter protest beat up one of their own cops who happened to be undercover. It was like a big trial and everything, right? So yes, police do go undercover. They do send their own people in, and this thing's happened. But I don't think at any point that we can say that the police were the ones, causing these riots for Black Lives Matter. And I don't believe that the FBI caused this, but I do think they were unprepared. And I think it was willfully being unprepared because just 2 weeks earlier with a couple of months earlier with Black Lives Matter rally, they had so many police officers there, and no one said they were coming to go in, take over the Capitol. But now you got information that people are coming to take over the Capitol and you don't have police officers there. Yes, I do think that's very suspicious, and I do think something was wrong with that. The left is saying that's racism. The right is saying it's a false flag. I think the truth is maybe somewhere in the middle.
Nate, the difference between causing something to happen and allowing it to happen is only the passivity through which you get to the same outcome. So, and to me, they're the same thing. Whether they caused it or allowed it to happen, it's the same thing. It's a distinction without a difference. But speaking of the Black Lives Matter protests, there's no question to me either that there were agitators infiltrating. I remember seeing one video, peaceful protests of legit Black Lives Matter protesters. Some dude wearing all black, a white guy, comes in with a hammer, starts breaking windows, and the protesters like, what are you doing? Stop doing it. He had an umbrella, no less. It comes in, starts breaking windows. I was like, okay, I have no problem accepting that that's an agitator that is foreign to the actual protest itself. Who and why is all up for discussion. But when it comes to the Jan 6th, and it was, that was my
No, sorry. No, sorry.
That's it.
I was commenting on the Dr. Michael Wood. I was referring to Dr. Michael Wood comment there. I was like, I don't know who that guy is. I never
Actually, yeah. Well, of course you don't. But on that note, Dr. Wood, I'm going to bring it up. Nate, I'm going to have you and Dr. Wood on sometime, and you can be the two cops. Since I'm never knowledgeable about any of this stuff, why not have two cops argue it out? So
that would be great.
I
actually,
plan to do that.
That would be great theater. Yeah.
So I'm sure you're up for it, Mike. If you're not,
I was supposed to have him back on my show. He was great, Michael. Yeah,
all right, now I hear
you were supposed to be regulars, and I guess did you ghost him?
I didn't ghost him. No. Actually, I was supposed to have him on like the day that I ended up getting my strike and getting yeeted for a week. And I don't know if I don't know if that's what led to my strike. I don't know what it was, but I announced that he's coming on. The next thing I know, I got a strike. So. Yeah.
Yes, you did ghost him.
I will totally have him. I'll totally have him back on. I'll totally have him back.
Eric, speaking of grift, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Viva.
That was the cat in the
You got
lighting.
Nate out of the show. How did that happen?
Wow.
Sorry,
You got first she knocked off Uncivil Law. Now she's knocking off Nate.
Oh, that's hilarious. You can't coordinate.
No, the
what just
cat
happened
knocked
there.
off half of my lighting.
No, and it knocked Nate out when it happened. So I will finish the grift of Viva Family. If you want to see a YouTube channel that's totally irrelevant to law.
Share it, dude.
I'm putting up my book review on EB Sledge with the Old Breed, Pelelu and Okinawa, because I said I've been thinking about that book since I finished it. I need to do my book review. So we'll see if Viva Book Reviews catches on anywhere.
I like it.
Tiger King 2, baby. Tiger King 2 next month.
That's gonna be golden, man.
That's a big deal for me. Tiger King 2 is a big deal for me.
I am so excited.
Oh,
as a
I'm
Florida
so
man,
excited about it.
I'm here for Carol Baskins.
I interviewed Carol Baskin.
I've been there, by the way.
Yeah.
Eric,
you know
this guy here,
Eric
he is
interviewed
Mr.
Carol
Carol Baskin.
Oh, I did not know that. I'm sorry.
And Nick Rekieta put up a $20 super chat asking her about having killed her husband. I mean, Nick Rekieta.
It was the most awesome thing in the world.
I love it.
He was saying super chat to super chat, saying like, "Wow." Like she's like, we were looking for the whole thing with my husband, and he's like, "Did you look inside the tigers?" He was great.
it was like
Eric, since I was about to say, Eric, since you're already what's it, yellow, why don't you play? Can you play the trailer? We can all react to it now.
Oh, the Tiger King?
I wouldn't do
it's
it.
like a
Don't do it, Eric.
trailer.
No, but
Go
don't
for
do it
that
because
to get demonetized.
forget demonetized. You might get a copyright strike if you do it.
They'll do a
Oh no,
copyright.
for the trailers. The trailers they allow you to play them. Like
I've gotten
do
claimed on
trailers.
trailers already.
I think just the tip
claimed.
still counts, Nate.
I got claimed on the Manchurian Candidate trailer, for God's sake, from 1962.
Don't do it. Don't do it. No,
It's not the trailer; it's music. There'll be music playing on the trailer, and Universal, whomever owns the music, is going to ping me on that. I'm having problems with copyright right now, folks. So I'm a little touchy.
Yeah, me too.
Don't mess with it. Don't mess with it.
During this stream, I actually filed my objection to a copyright claim for my song, my stupid intro song, which I use every night, 5 nights a week. Like, it'll happen like once a month. I'll get the same copyright thing that, you're using Hall of the Mountain King. This is a copyright violation, and we're going to take you off the air or some other threat like that. And it's happened twice this week. Twice.
Joe, you got to be careful, because I know that happened to another YouTuber where they do reaction videos. So they'll say, all right, this 2 seconds or 2 minute thing. So they were just cutting it out, and then what they turned it from those non-strikes to then strikes. So they hit them with 3 strikes and took down their channel. So just be careful.
Every time they end up saying it's okay. Every single time I've used it, it's happened like about a dozen times that out of the hundreds of shows I've done, about a dozen times they said, this time it's a copyright violation.
I hate to ask, how important is that song?
That song is me. It's like my hat.
Well,
It's like
I'll
no
tell
one
you,
will know who
I
I
have
am.
a
All right,
similar.
I don't want to rob your
I mean, but you
identity,
can get a new
there's
hat.
The hat is the message. The hat is a message about the power, about abuse of power, that the NYPD are able to walk around unfettered, not wearing masks. Because I wore this hat on the first time I really wore this hat anywhere is I wore it on a train, and the conductor, instead of demanding I put on a mask, didn't even look at my ticket, just walked right past, glanced at me, saw the hat, and just walked right on past. Whereas on the way in there, they would have literally thrown me off the train for not wearing a mask. So this hat is not just saying I'm from New York. It's a complaint. It's lodging my complaint and the objection to the abuse the NYPD have, that if people just think I'm NYPD, I can basically do whatever I want. And this stupid hat, $15 hat, replaces a mask anywhere I go. So that's what that hat's about.
You guys want to see Andrew Cuomo's stuff? They have it up. I'm surprised. They have it up on e-courts. All his arrest stuff.
Oh, let's do it.
On e-courts. Oh my
Not only
god!
do I wanna
Usually
see
they don't have celebrity stuff on this.
Nate, can you
but
flip it?
Cuomo was arrested?
I'm gonna share it right now. Well, here it is. Well, here's all his case information. Let me make sure.
I didn't know Cuomo was arrested. I'm confused.
All right, here it is. I'll click through it when you guys are. So this is Cuomo's Andrew Cuomo. He's supposed to be.
What?
This is
What's
his
he defense? What's he defended for?
He's a defendant because they're arresting
misconduct,
him for thing. Yeah.
For what? Whoa! This is all new.
I didn't know anything about
this.
This is kind of
Your
groundbreaking.
governor stepped down. You didn't.
What are you?
All right, so everybody understands Andrew Cuomo. They've just charged Andrew Cuomo with sexual misconduct.
Oh, they did.
So
Yes.
so I just looked on e-courts because any criminal defendant in New York, you're on e-courts. So I looked to see if he was on e-courts, and this is Andrew Cuomo's case. So
Well, he's not the governor, so yeah. I mean, it's just Citizen Andrew. Go.
And yeah, Andrew Cuomo, 1959. The incident was December 7th, 2020.
Who's the prosecuting?
He hasn't been arrested
Who's
yet.
the DA? Is it Letitia James?
Albany County DA. And here's his judge. Let me see the incident. He hasn't been arrested yet. Wow.
20,000 people are dead because of his reckless negligence and how he basically infected.
They'll never get him on that, Joe.
Yeah, but instead he's facing criminal charges because he told a reporter to finish the whole sandwich.
No, this is forcible touching of intimate parts.
This
might be the
one in the car. Yeah, the cop in the car when he touched her.
I bet it's the cop.
Touching of intimate parts.
Because he had a state cop that
He had a
was
fancy
going after
car.
him.
Yeah. Wow. So they actually charged him. This is crazy.
Wait, dude, I'm not seeing anything other than.
Oh, I'm sorry.
docket
I'm looking. I clicked the wrong thing.
It's
All
like
right, so here's the
I'm
docket
like-
entry.
Yeah,
I was looking through it on another thing. So here's
seriously, Nate. Viva is working. Viva's
kind of
working on putting out
screen
this
share?
video right now.
I want. I'm using this as a highlight.
Yeah, this is
November 7th. All right, so let me go through it. So you guys can see. You guys
pull it up on
can't
the
see it
screen.
now, right?
We don't see it. We don't
Alright.
see it yet, Nate.
Oh, you know
What
what
the
happens?
actual
Every
complaint?
time I click
Open the
it,
other
it
window,
opens.
copy and paste the URL in the current URL, and it'll replace it.
Yes,
I do
that's
this all
what
the
happens.
time.
It keeps popping up. Hold on, I'm gonna open up the other URL. Sorry about that, guys. Oops,
I'm sitting
here
here
it is.
confused, going, well, and then you're just talking away. I'm like, what?
I'm
So here's the
Technology.
Okay.
Here it is. Here's the summary. Andrew Cuomo. His incident was December 7th, 2020. Albany County. That's where the governor's office is. His next appearance date is the 17th. So that's when he's got to appear. They probably give him a summons.
Man.
He's got no appearance. He's got one appearance.
So did he touch the privates? Would be the vagina part.
Here's the charge. The charge is a
What's
misdemeanor.
with the potty mouth, Viva?
It's
Jeez.
Well, I'm
Forcible
working in.
touching of intimate parts.
Intimate parts could be external. It doesn't have to be internal.
No, but it could be like
Yeah.
I think it could be above the waist also.
Grabbing a boob.
Yeah.
Grabbing a boob.
boobs.
counts.
Yeah, I think
boobs,
so.
boobs,
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, so it's almost
I'm just talking
like
through.
what Trump said in that leaked video was exactly what people in positions of power do.
You're like, this is what Cuomo does. This is what Cuomo
He took it
does.
as a challenge.
You know what? There could be the argument made that just like with Obama, Trump said a lot of things. Obama did a lot of things.
Well, I think
It's an interesting, scenario, like the droner in chief.
No, I think.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in Nate that he shared this with Viva before getting the scoop on it out on his own channel. That's what I don't know what you're thinking. Your grift skills here, brother.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's an organic circle.
It's a
I'm
race.
joking.
They
I'm
might do
joking.
one together.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Viva's. Well, Viva, if you want
He's
this, I'll send it over to
screenshotting
you.
this right
Oh,
now.
you-
Probably
you-
saying,
you-
No, don't worry.
I
We'll
can't.
all grift off this.
You
Don't
hold on
worry.
a second. Screenshot. No, I want to read this. Is it?
Oh,
You
wanna-
get the actual.
yeah.
You get the actual documents in the entries.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, you get it there,
Okay.
and I'll send you the complaint, the criminal complaint. But this is it.
Yeah,
You can put the link in the
Woody's
private
right,
chat
it was,
even.
It was
yeah,
patting
yeah.
the booty.
yeah. You
Put the link in the private chat.
Well, this is
You might need a
open to the
login.
public. You don't. Do you need a login credential for this or no?
No,
You
this is
do.
open to the public.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, this is open to
Really?
the public.
put a
That's
link
why.
in the
That's why.
private chat, dude.
All right, hold on. Let me put a link in the private chat. You grifters.
Dude,
Well,
this
it's not
is-
like I'm going to do a video, Nate.
This
My,
is
my,
no.
my
I
biggest hope
you
is
just-
that you guys use this screenshot and I get just a little cursory.
I gotta do a follow up on the last videos. The finding of the committee. Then I don't. Yeah, the world needs to know this.
I
and
just
it's
want
true.
an honorable mention.
Someone
And we
said
can actually
that,
look up Cardi B's case too. You guys want to look up Cardi B's case? She's up in
Yeah.
here too.
Sure. Love me some Cardi.
You got to go
Yeah.
to NY. If you want to find anything, you just go to NYSECF, New York State Electronic Case Filing. And
I'll give it a find it. But no, this is interesting news. Surprising that CNN's not reporting on it.
It is shocking. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Well, you know what? Maybe his brother's going to scoop it.
Okay.
so this is in Supreme Court criminal.
Yes, this is Supreme Court criminal.
Because every time I go there, they ask me to log in. So that's
go to
like,
web crimes. Go to web crimes.
Oh,
Web crim or web. Yeah, it's called web criminal, and it's
good
right there. You
stuff.
don't have to log in.
Oh, yeah. Look at this. It's wide open.
Yeah, different
it's open
states
to
are
anybody.
more
The link
restricted.
is in the private chat, Joe. Just go to that.
But hold on. The link in the private chat is the generic web crim without the specific
is.
entry. So how do I get it?
Yeah,
to
just
the
you
Why
have
don't you
to
type in the
because you
name?
gotta type in the name
defense search.
to get it. Just type in Andrew Cuomo for defendant search, and you'll see everything.
I am not a robot. Okay.
Yeah, and you just gotta do the. You're not a robot.
I am not a robot. Andrew.
Yeah, we don't have any filing docs yet, but that's
Ooh,
yeah, it just shows the
Google them.
docket.
Google the complaint.
Yeah, the
just
docket.
Google
Oh no, I
Google the
got this.
complaint.
Okay. See you guys later.
Oh, you're going.
I told you. I told you.
I'm gonna go. There's 6 videos on this.
There's
I'm
something
like, all right.
burning in the oven.
But I gotta change the side of the street of the car.
It's one of
Oh man, that's wild news. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna check this out.
Yeah, he's actually there because usually, like for Weinstein, but every time I searched his name here, they didn't have it there because it's celebrity. So I'm thinking they're assuming that they didn't want.
No,
people to
this
look.
is a vendetta. They
I
want
want
Cuomo
to.
down.
I want to see if you can get it out by 4 p.m. today. That's what I
No,
want
that's
to see.
definitely not. Definitely, I got to pick up the kids at school and.
They're gonna, you know, this is something that's gonna just eat their own because I mean, it's these people, these politicians, these type of people that are the most perverse of a group of individuals. And they're the
America
ones
loves
who
to
are-
build up heroes just so they can tear them down.
Well,
So that's-
he's become
Amen
a
to
political
that.
enemy to the powers that were the same ones that were working with him for a while. He's just on the outs of the institutionalized power now, and he's gonna feel the wrath. Although he couldn't have happened to a better person.
Amen.
Here's the Cardi B one. Look at her charges. I don't know if you guys can see this, but her
Holy.
charges are insane.
Is it
Disney
listed as
girl.
Cardi B? Is she listed
nice.
as Cardi
Come on,
B?
Disney.
I'm sorry. Was there a
No,
next
she's
page on
listed
this?
under her.
Alamanzer Bacalus is her real name?
Yeah, that's her real name. So this is her. She was arrested in Queens. She was born in
Alamanzer.
1992. NYPD.
She was born
She's
when
our
I was
attorney.
in basic training, for God's sake.
Wow.
Wow.
When was- when-
She's
when
been
was she
busy
born?
since.
DA. And then you go to her appearances. So she has all these appearances.
Look at
Then
this.
she has her indictment. Yeah.
Holy God.
Wow.
It's been going on for 2 years.
Oh,
And
this is,
here are her
this is
charges.
in one court file.
Yeah, this is in one court file, and this is all her charges. They like hit her with everything, so she can spend up to 4 years. Now, one thing that they offered her, and here are all her motions. They offered her a plea deal for no jail time. So they said, we'll give you'll cop to a misdemeanor assault, and you get no jail time, and then after a year you're done. Like it was a probation. It's called a CD, but it's probation. And she didn't take it, so now she's facing 4 years on an indictment, which doesn't make any sense. She thinks she can beat it, but they have her. They have video. They have her. She was telling people to meet her there to beat the people up. So they have those on social media. So yeah, so she's done. I don't know why
But
she
Nate,
didn't take the plea.
I know a lot of folks that end up going down that route because they just get so confident that they can beat it, right? I mean, they're like, "Oh, I can beat this, and they end up, getting the time that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise,
And just so no one thinks I'm a total liar, check this out. That's for my wife. It says, pick up the kids at 2:30 today. Here we go.
The complaint says the complaint against Cuomo specifies that it was above the waist grabbing. So,
Okay. All right, quick. This one here. Nick is at the dentist.
I love the
He
grip.
found something more pleasurable than being on here.
Getting drilled one way or another.
Actually, I guess
I can't
we
believe they
need
have
to.
Cuomo up there. They really have him up there. That's crazy. That's
Dude,
so
but
embarrassing,
it's also a
too.
question of screenshot that before they take it down.
In the private chat, I linked to an article that has the actual text of the complaint. So it's out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So you guys can see it.
Good work, Alita.
Thank you.
All right. So I feel like we've all been in a huddle now, and we're about to say break, and everybody's running for their
everyone
camera.
The people of New York versus Andrew Cuomo.
It's the opening scene from Rat Race. Where we're like, we're just gonna go now and check the.
But before we do go, I got to hit the grift hard. There's 874 people watching. I'm at 2,044 subs or whatever it is. We can get me to 3,000. Come on, guys. Consider
Consider
subbing. It is
it's good stuff.
good content. I promise it's good. Especially Alec Baldwin. I know we're going to be doing a sequel now because just too much
Just
stuff
for the
is going
Alec
crazy.
Baldwin alone, you guys should subscribe. The Alec Baldwin stuff. I learned more about props and all that stuff because I thought it was a prop gun. I was like, oh, it's a fake gun. Like, no, idiot, it's a real gun. I was like, oh,
That changes things
People are
somewhat.
still arguing, and there's a link in the chat.
Go
in
to
the description.
Go to Baldwin's Twitter feed and go look at the responses to his 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 tweets. People are like, it was just a prop gun, guys. Why would he check it? I mean, people just don't know, and I say this without judgment. It was my impression as well. Everything's changed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, this has been amazing as usual, and I don't know. I'm waiting for something profound to come out of somebody's mouth. Joe, you going to take us out?
what? I'm waiting for